Chapter 1157 Speed Contest. Chapter 1157 Speed Contest. Hellscythe_Vampire Cat. Chapter 1157 Speed Contest. As the explosion came to a roaring end, the rampant mana also gradually began to dissipate. Meanwhile, the might of Alice's ice-fire domain had stupefied the many experts present. Everybody capable of taking part in the dark arena was someone of high status and position. Among them, there was no lack of powerful experts from large guilds. At this moment, however, every one of these experts had their breaths taken away by the Witch of the West, particularly those magical class experts, who even found themselves gasping for air when they witnessed this scene. Spell combination! This is too amazing! It's a true spell combination! Someone has actually managed to turn theory into reality. So this is the Witch of the West? At this moment, the magical class players present could not help but want to rewatch the earlier scenes several hundred times. Double speed casting was already plenty amazing. However, using it as a base, the Witch of the West had displayed an even stronger ability, and that was spell combination. This was a peak technique that countless magical class players dreamed of bringing off. In God's domain, the sight of melee classes combining the strength of their attacks was no longer rare. However, the difficulty of superpositioning two different types of spells was much greater than that of stacking the strength of melee attacks. The reason for this was, firstly, players had less control over their spells than over their bodies. Secondly, one's grasp of timing needed to be extremely accurate. Due to these two reasons, spell combination was deemed to be an impossible technique. Yet, now, the Witch of the West had displayed that technique before everybody. Isn't she a little too strong? If she's grasped spell combination, no player in the same tier can match her. Cloud Yarn was filled with shock as she looked at Alice, who was standing proudly on the stage right now. The other members of the Midnight Tea Party agreed with Cloud Yarn's words. From the destructive power they saw, they could tell that the effect of spell combination was much stronger than that of strength stacking. Even just the combination of two ordinary Tier 1 spells resulted in a power that could rival that of a Tier 2 spell. Being able to cast Tier 2 spells as a Tier 1 player would provide one with an overwhelming advantage over others, not to mention being capable of combining two Tier 1 curses together. Anyone who did not possess a defensive skill that provided invulnerability would be killed instantly. What a pity! Endless Scars could not help but sigh as she took another look at the Asura battle team. Her view of the battle was mostly the same as her teammates. However, unlike them, she did not consider Alice invincible among those of the same tier. At the very least, among the experts she knew, there were many that could contend against Alice. One of the said experts was none other than the Sword King Black Flame, whom she had met just recently. Unfortunately, Black Flame was not participating in this competition. Otherwise, there would definitely be an interesting fight to watch if the two of them fought. Just as everyone believed that the Asura battle team's members had already been killed and was waiting for the system to announce the victors, two vague figures appeared standing amid the scattering smoke. They managed to survive even that? Everyone could not help but grow confused. Even an MT with their life-saving skill activated would most likely die when going up against that kind of destructive power, not to mention a swordsman and a cleric, which were inferior to MTs when it came to HP and defense. The instant Violet Cloud's figure emerged, Starstreak, who had been looking for an opportunity to strike all this time, activated Shadow Steps and dove straight into the smoke clouds. He then stabbed his pitch-black dagger at the back of the petite figure before him. Starstreak completed the entire process like flowing water. He made no sound whatsoever as he moved, and included no excess movements in his actions. Immediately, the pitch-black dagger struck at Violet Cloud at a speed invisible to the naked eye. Ambush! Dang! Sparks flew into the surroundings as the clangor of metal clashing resounded throughout the stage. Amid the little sparks, one could faintly see a long sword wrapped in blue lightning holding back the advance of Starstreak's pitch-black dagger. He blocked it? Starstreak was inwardly surprised. However, as a peak expert, he would not fall back just because one of his attacks failed to land. He promptly adjusted his previous strategy, as he flipped the silver dagger in his left hand into a reverse grip. In the next moment, the silver dagger began emitting cold air. He then activated the epic ranked Frost Tooth's strongest skill, Frost Burst, at Shifeng and Violet Cloud. Frost Burst was a skill that dealt a large amount of ice-type damage in a fan-shaped area before the user. At the same time, the skill would also freeze all creatures within the affected area for 5 seconds. Even if one used a control removal skill, they would still be affected by Frost Burst's other effect, which reduced the movement speed and attack speed of all enemies within a 20-yard radius for 10 seconds. With this, Starstreak would have an absolute advantage throughout the skill's duration. Boom! The space before Starstreak immediately turned into a world of frost. Following which, he used Absolute Strike and struck at Violet Cloud once more. Pun! However, before he could reach his target, Starstreak, who had transformed into a streak of shadow, found himself stopped without warning. It was as if his entire person had crashed into a wall. What's going on? Starstreak was thoroughly bewildered. At this moment, there was actually an invisible wall before him. Meanwhile, not only had this invisible wall stopped his absolute strike, but even the ice burst he used before had been blocked. Both Shifeng and Violet Cloud were completely unharmed. In the next moment, the invisible wall shattered, and a blue sword light suddenly struck at Starstreak. The link between the two processes was simply perfect, giving Starstreak practically no time to react. Pun! In the nick of time, Starstreak managed to move a dagger into the path of the blue sword light. However, as soon as Starstreak stopped this sword light, several more followed in rapid succession, every one of them targeted at the assassin's weak points. What fast swordsmanship! Starstreak hurriedly brandished his 2 daggers to fend off the onslaught. Each time he repulsed an attack, it felt like a hammer pounding his arms, the resulting vibrations inflicting pain. Meanwhile, watching the numerous sword lights interweaving with one another, the audience was dazzled by what they saw. Everyone could only see the afterimages of the hands of both sides. They could not see the swords and daggers clashing against one another at all. The speed of the battle had everyone holding their breath. In the blink of an eye, dozens of attacks had been exchanged. If Starstreak was careless for even a moment, he would definitely get hit. How are his attacks so fast? After receiving dozens of attacks, Starstreak was confounded. Frost Burst could reduce the speed of all enemies within 20 yards, yet the speed of Shifeng's attacks did not seem to have been affected whatsoever. If not for Starstreak being an agility-based assassin, Shifeng's attacks would have struck him by now. However, what Starstreak did not know was that the opponent he currently faced was a level 49 swordsman equipped with the level 50 magic light set equipment, as well as a fragmented legendary item. If not for Shifeng's speed having been reduced, he would have long since defeated Starstreak in their contest of speed. Seeing as Shifeng had already secured the advantage, Starstreak had no other choice but to activate his Berserk skill. Once he activated his Berserk skill, he intended to force back Shifeng and open a distance between them to prevent the swordsman from furthering his assault. Then, he would look for an opportunity to strike. After all, an assassin did not have many advantages against a swordsman in a frontal clash. With this in mind, right when their weapons were about to clash once more, Starstreak activated his Berserk skill, Phantom, his strength and speed soaring by a large margin. In the next instant, both his daggers abruptly struck at the killing ray in Shifeng's hand. Pun! Starstreak felt like he had just attacked a steel wall, both his hands aching from the resulting vibrations. In contrast, the arm Shifeng used to swing killing ray only trembled slightly. Impossible! Starstreak was stunned. Chapter 1158 Different Level of Competition. Chapter 1158 Different Level of Competition. Hellscythe_Vampire Cat. Chapter 1158 Different Level of Competition. Starstreak knew full well the pros and cons of his Berserk skill, Phantom. However, even though Phantom provided only a 50% increase to his strength, which was lower than what some other Berserk skills provided, when combined with his equipment, even repulsing a Berserker of the same level was child's play to him. Yet now, even such a huge boost to his strength did next to nothing to change the result of his clash with Chiffon. Thinking up to this point, Starstreak suddenly came up with an incredible thought. Chiffon had not been going all out at all during their previous clashes. As for the possibility of Chiffon having activated a Berserk skill as well, it was simply impossible. Berserk skills would manifest on a player's body one way or another when activated. Moreover, the strength of a player's aura would also increase. Currently, however, Chiffon showed no such signs. Hence, the only possibility was that Chiffon had been hiding his strength. Thinking up to this point, Starstreak could not help but shudder. Chiffong's basic attributes were actually so high that he could hold his ground even after Starstreak had activated his Berserk skill. Although Starstreak had only briefly fallen into shock, this duration was enough for peak experts like Chiffon to land a killing blow. Disappear! Illusory shadow. 6 blue sword lights struck at Starstreak from 6 different angles. Starstreak instinctively defended himself with his daggers. However, the instant his daggers came into contact with the sword lights, his complexion immediately darkened. The sword lights had actually moved through his daggers unhindered. It was as if these sword lights were phantoms that did not possess a physical body. Just as the 6 sword lights were about to land on Starstreak's body, the assassin gnashed his teeth and reluctantly used Vanish. His entire person then disappeared from everyone's sight. The brief invulnerability provided by Vanish also neutralized the 6 sword lights. After disappearing, Starstreak did not retreat. Instead, he chose to launch another assault. This time, he used the ultimate move of the epic dagger he wielded with his other hand, Tooth Blade. 3 phantoms suddenly appeared around Chiffon: a white eagle, a hungry wolf, and a black bear. Starstreak and the 3 phantoms then attacked Chiffon from 4 different directions. At the same time, Starstreak himself remained in stealth, so Chiffon could not see what exactly he was doing. Vanish was a life-saving skill that forcibly placed one into a stealth state for 3 seconds. During these 3 seconds, so long as one did not do anything, they would remain in a forced stealth state. In other words, not only could Vanish be used to escape, but it could also be used to attack. A majority of the information a human received from their surroundings came from one's vision. Hence, it was extremely difficult for one to defend against an attack that they could not see, not to mention doing so while receiving other attacks. One's vision would automatically shift their brain's focus towards the things that they could see, and this only made it even more difficult for one to defend against an attack that they could not see. Dang! 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 A series of metal clashing sounds echoed throughout the battlefield. What decisiveness! Starstreak's mouth twitched as he looked at the completely unscathed swordsman before him. The instant he launched his attack, Chiffon had activated Defensive Blade without hesitation, preventing Starstreak from doing any damage whatsoever. However, this was also a good outcome as Chiffon no longer possessed any life-saving skills. Furthermore, Starstreak's Tooth Blade skill had a duration of 10 seconds. He could definitely finish off Chiffon during this period. On the other side, Alice had also begun chanting an incantation. With a light wave of her staff, over a dozen ice arrows and fireballs appeared around Alice. She then sent the attacks flying at Chiffon and Violet Cloud. At this moment, Violet Cloud was also done chanting her own incantation as she slammed the butt of Death's Sigh on the ground. Immediately, over 100 pitch-black blades appeared around Violet Cloud, densely circulating around her body. This scene instantly stunned everyone in the arena. How can this be? Endless Scars's eyes widened, her mind utterly confused as she looked at the scythe in Violet Cloud's hands. Could that possibly be the real deal? According to the ancient books she read, these 100+ dark blades should be the manifestation of Shadow Rage, the strongest skill of Death's Sigh. The only thing different was that the information recorded regarding Shadow Rage stated that it would summon thousands of Shadow Blades when activated, each one possessing the power to heavily injure even Tier 5 monsters. When these blades were concentrated, they could slay even gods. Just as Endless Scars was entertaining such thoughts, Violet Cloud controlled the Shadow Blades to counter the approaching ice spears and fireballs. She also sent some to attack Starstreak. Upon seeing this, Starstreak immediately panicked. He hurriedly controlled his 3 phantom beasts to defend him from the oncoming shadow blades. Dang! 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 The power packed within the shadow blades was massive. Even when Alice combined the power of the ice spears and fireballs, the spells had only managed to slow down the speed of the shadow blades and weaken their power slightly. The blades still proceeded to fly towards Alice after shattering the elementalist's spells. Meanwhile, on Starstreak's side, despite him having activated his berserk skill already, he just barely managed to defend against the shadow blades with the help of his 3 phantom beasts. However, every shadow blade he blocked numbed his arms. His HP also decreased by over 200 each time. On the other hand, Alice was brimming with excitement rather than feeling anxious. Waving the fire god's eye, she suddenly formed a massive, crimson magic array before her. Just as the shadow blades were about to land on Alice's body, the ground in front of her suddenly shattered. A flaming hand then emerged from the fissure and blocked all the oncoming shadow blades. Following which, the fissure on the ground grew steadily larger. Shortly after, another hand emerged from it, the 2 hands appearing as if they were trying to rend the ground and clamber up. How can this be? She can summon the Flame King all by herself? Phoenix Rain was deeply shocked as she looked at the flame giant, which was slowly climbing into the stage right now. The reason why she wanted to obtain the Fire God's Eye was not just its ability to improve the completion rate of spells. More importantly, it could summon the Flame Monarch from Hell. However, summoning the Flame Monarch required a large amount of mana, roughly 10 magical class players' mana. If she had the Flame Monarch's strength, claiming 2 monster encampments on Thunder Island would not be impossible. Meanwhile, the fact that Alice had managed to summon the Flame Monarch by relying on only her own power was simply inconceivable for Phoenix Rain. The appearance of the Flame King made the audience members gasp. Flame Monarch, Elemental Creature, Grand Lord. Level 65. HP 60, 000, 000/60, 000, Now that the Evil Dragon battle team had summoned a level 65 Grand Lord to assist them, there was no longer a need to continue this match. Not to mention 2 experts, even 20 experts would be cannon fodder when going up against a level 65 Grand Lord. As a matter of fact, regardless of how Violet Cloud tried to attack Alice using her shadow blades, the Flame Monarch blocked all her attacks without any difficulty. The Grand Lord was like an indestructible wall. That move of yours really is amazing. I never thought that I would have to use this trump card of mine. However, this match is as good as over now. Although the Flame King I summoned isn't in its completed form, it still possesses the strength of a Grand Lord. You 2 have no chance of winning. You might as well give up now. At this moment, Alice's complexion was slightly pale. As for her mana, not a single point remained at the moment. However, the pride in her eyes was unwavering. Flame Monarch, show them your strength. At Alice's order, the Flame Monarch roared, its voice echoing throughout the arena. Immediately after, the air on the stage began steaming as columns of fire shot up from the ground. The columns of fire then transformed into massive fireballs, their numbers reaching 36. Every fireball was the size of a house. One could just imagine what kind of scene would occur when these massive fireballs landed on the ground. The audience members felt their scalps tingling when they saw these fireballs. How was this a fight between players? It was more appropriate to call this a battle between NPCs. Compared to the usual PvP matches, this match was on an entirely different level. Alright, time to end this. Alice then pointed at Chiffon and Violet Cloud. Suddenly, the 36 massive fireballs descended on the duo. Chapter 1159 Matching up against the Grand Lord. Chapter 1159 Matching up against the Grand Lord. Hellscythe_Fluffy Goblin. Chapter 1159 Matching up against the Grand Lord. Alice, have you lost your mind? I'm still here. Starstreak was furious as he glanced at the descending fireballs. Violet Cloud's shadow blades still had him pinned down. He did not have any concentration to spare for an escape. If these fireballs struck, he would get caught in the impact. With no other options, Starstreak decided to use his final life-saving skill, his Epic Boot's additional skill, Flash Steps. The skill allowed him to teleport to any location 15 yards away. It had a 1-minute cooldown and 3 charges. Starstreak used Flash Steps twice and instantly moved 30 yards away. Meanwhile, although Violet Cloud desperately blocked the incoming fireballs with her shadow blades, the fireballs were unaffected. She also had no hope of dodging these attacks. Similar to her shadow blades, Alice controlled these fireballs. Not only did they contain massive power, but they also had a wide attack range. With so many of the fireballs, if Alice wanted to, she could even destroy the entire stage. Phoenix Rain, who watched the fight from a VIP room, could not help but shake her head. The Asura battle team had lost this competition. Although each competition in the Dark Arena had 5 matches, the Asura battle team had only brought 5 members. Once they lost this match, regardless of whether the battle team won the next or not, the Evil Dragon battle team would win the competition. After all, the final 2 matches were 3-on-3. The Asura battle team did not have enough members to participate. Hence, so long as the Evil Dragon battle team won one of the first 3 matches, the competition would be over. Sure enough, defeating the Evil Dragon battle team is impossible for the Asura battle team. Phoenix Rain was, more or less, disappointed. Although she hadn't bet any excess resources on this competition, with how lively the Dark Arena was today, they would still earn a significant amount if the Asura battle team won. However, she had only considered the idea. In another VIP room, Purple Jade gritted her teeth as she watched the massive fireballs above the stage, frustration flashing in her eyes. However, that feeling wasn't due to the match's ending. Rather, she was frustrated with herself. The Witch of the West had made her feel like a child, new to the world. Before this match, she had believed that she was only a thread away from the virtual gaming world's pinnacle. Looking back at it now, however, the idea was laughable. She was far weaker than Alice regarding both combat techniques and items. It was no wonder why her guild leader constantly told her to work on her foundations and explore the world with Yuan Tianxin more often. Jade, do you see it now? This is a battle at the pinnacle of God's domain. If you wish to challenge these people, you need to grasp your own domain, Yuan Tianxin advised Purple Jade. But don't feel down. You are still young. Unlike this old man, who no longer has any hope of reaching that realm, you will join their ranks one day. In the past, he had also dreamed of leading the secret pavilion towards the apex of the virtual gaming world. However, only after encountering people of that realm did he realize that the virtual gaming world was not as simple as he had assumed. Virtual reality games had been popular all over the world for over a century now. With the world's population being so high, countless gaming experts from the younger generation emerged each year. Furthermore, God's domain gained more influence with each passing day. Meanwhile, on the stage, Shifeng abruptly jumped towards the massive fireballs, meeting them in the air. Guild leader? Violet Cloud, who was desperately trying to counter the attacks, was confused. Shifeng activated Heavenly Dragon's power, his aura immediately transforming. Golden divine runes flickered across his body as if he had donned golden armor. Alice sneered when she saw Shifeng activate a berserk skill. The massive fireballs were the result of the Flame Monarch's Tier 3 curse, Wrath of the Stars. Each fireball was powerful enough to rival a Grand Lord. Tier 1 players had no hope of defending against such attacks. The difference in power was simply too great. Even if Shifeng had a skill that provided invulnerability, she could simply control the 36 fireballs to attack him one after another. Invulnerability skills generally had short durations. If she hit him once every second, she could continue her attack for 36 seconds. As Shifeng was about to collide with a fireball, he activated Blade Liberation. Immediately, power flowed into him from Killing Ray, allowing his attributes to soar once more. Looking at the fireballs before him, Shifeng tightened his grip on the sacred sword in his right hand and swung it forward. Thundering Flash. Combat technique, from Moon Lotus. Like a sharp blade, arcs of blue lightning sliced through the massive fireballs, one after another. All the crowd had seen were 4 streaks of light leaving Shifeng's hand. In the blink of an eye, 23 of the 36 unstoppable fireballs split in half and exploded like fireworks. Silence fell over the arena. No one had expected this shocking reversal. Even Alice was stunned. A Tier 1 player had sliced the fireballs, which contained the strength to rival level 65 Grand Lords, in half. No matter how she looked at it, this was impossible, yet Shifeng had done just that. Just how powerful is he? Phoenix Rain's gaze was fixed on Shifeng, who remained in midair. She could not bring herself to believe that the man she was looking at was the same person she knew. Just who is he? Thousand Miles unconsciously tightened his grip on his swords as he watched the detonating fireballs. He knew full well how powerful the fire god's eyes flame monarch was. After all, he had handed the staff to Alice personally. Yet, a Tier 1 player had sliced one of the flame monarch's team-wide moves in half. This was simply inconceivable. If this competition had been held before Shifeng's visit to the Fallen Ark, he wouldn't have been able to repel the flame monarch's attacks. However, he had obtained epic pauldrons from killing the mythic fossilized Tyrannosauruses. They were called the Tough Pauldrons. Aside from epic rank basic attributes, these pauldrons only had one skill. Moreover, it was a passive skill. The passive skill was called Power of Destruction. When the player faced attacks with higher strength than their own, the wearer's strength would increase by 35%. Against weaker enemies, this skill had no effect whatsoever. However, against stronger enemies, this passive skill was godly. Hence, Shifeng's strength had increased by 35% as he fought the massive fireballs. In addition, he had triggered Angry Tyrant's second passive skill, Angry Blow, which had doubled his strength. It was only thanks to those passive skills and Thundering Flashes effects that his plan had succeeded. However, after a brief silence in the arena, Shifeng activated Wind Rider and charged towards Alice, who was over 30 yards away. While he had neutralized the fireballs, he was still helpless against the Flame Monarch itself. Once Blade Liberation's 20-second duration ended, he would be powerless to turn things around. "You want to kill me?" Despite seeing Shifeng flying towards her, Alice was neither surprised nor afraid. On the contrary, she was a little excited. It had been a long time since she had faced such a challenge. "Unfortunately, that won't be possible." Saying so, Alice merged her body with the Flame Monarch's. Without hesitation, Shifeng executed Chop against the Flame Monarch. However, before killing Ray slid even 1 meter into the Flame Monarch, its advance halted. The sacred sword couldn't reach Alice in the Flame Monarch's core. "I've already told you that you have no chance of victory. I know that you can't maintain this power for long. Unfortunately for you, my Flame Monarch can last for 5 hours. Alice said, shaking her head. She then controlled the Flame Monarch to attack Shifeng. "That's not necessarily true. Don't forget, I'm not your only opponent," Shifeng calmly stated. Suddenly, realization dawned on Alice as she looked across the stage. Immediately, she noticed Violet Cloud swing down Death's Eye in her direction. Compared to when Alluring Summer had used Dimensional Fracture, Violet Cloud used it at full HP. The instant Violet Cloud swung the scythe, the spectators faintly saw a giant phantom appear behind her. The sight was enough to make them shudder. Starstreak, who had planned to help Alice, was stunned. He felt as if his body were full of lead. "Death's Phantom! It's the real thing!" Endless Scars was astonished when she saw this, waves of emotion crashing in her heart. Space above the stage suddenly split apart. With its hulking body, the Flame Monarch couldn't dodge the attack in time. In the blink of an eye, both the Flame Monarch and Alice split in half. Chapter 1160 Victory Declaration. Chapter 1160 Victory Declaration. Hellscythe _ Fluffy Goblin. Chapter 1160 Victory Declaration. The scene of the Flame Monarch's body splitting in half burned itself into everyone's minds. The audience shuddered. It died? How can such a powerful skill exist? He was telling the truth. Dimensional Fracture's power far surpassed the spectators' imaginations. They finally realized that Shifeng hadn't been bluffing. Compared to Violet Cloud's Dimensional Fracture, alluring summers was child's play. In God's domain, there were many sure kill skills capable of instant killing players of the same tier. However, they couldn't accept a skill that could split a Grand Lord in half. Countless players would despair against the Grand Lord's high defense. That Shifeng's weapon had pierced the Flame Monarch so deeply had already been impressive. They won? Phoenix Rain felt as if she were dreaming as she watched Alice's bisected body gradually transform into particles of light and disappear. That was the Witch of the West they were talking about. Moreover, Alice had controlled a level 65 Grand Lord. No matter how she looked at it, Alice should have had an overwhelming advantage. None of the audience had believed that the Asura battle team could win this round. At most, they had expected Shifeng and Violet Cloud to struggle as long as they could for survival. Just how many secrets is Zero Wing hiding? Yuan Tiexin's eyes twitched uncontrollably when he saw the attack split the Flame Monarch in half. As one of the secret pavilion's upper echelons, he knew much about God's domain. In reality, Violet Cloud's Dimensional Fracture had only dealt slightly over -100,000 damage. To the Grand Lord, this could barely put a dent in its 60 million HP. However, splitting the Flame Monarch in half had injured it severely. There were very few means current players could employ to injure a Grand Lord. Normally, one had to rely on powerful Tier 3 magic scrolls to do so, yet the cleric had done so with her weapon's additional skill. As far as Yuan Tiexin knew, none of the various large guilds possessed such a weapon or equipment. In God's domain, it was also common knowledge that the more powerful a weapon or piece of equipment was, the more difficult it would be to obtain. Still, an upstart guild like Zero Wing had obtained such a powerful weapon. No matter how Yuan Tiexin looked at this matter, he found it simply inconceivable. The Death Sigh in Violet Cloud's hands had also astonished the Midnight Tea Party's endless scars and breeze wine. According to the ancient book they had found, Death's Sigh, one of God's domain's 12 great legendary staffs, had long since been destroyed. Not even a blacksmith god could repair it. However, no matter how they looked at it, the cleric's Death's Sigh looked more like the real article than a replica. When she had used Dimensional Fracture, she had even summoned forth Death's Phantom. The pressure Death's Phantom emitted was no laughing matter. Without a doubt, that was definitely divine might. Otherwise, there was no way an expert of Starstreak's caliber would suddenly freeze up under such pressure. No replica could reproduce divine might. When Endless Scars and Breeze Wine thought about how Violet Cloud wielded the real Death's Sigh, they were overcome with shock. A fragmented legendary item. Although this term was no longer foreign to experts like them, they hadn't heard of any guild obtaining a fragmented legendary item until now. Fragmented legendary items were godly items that experts constantly strove to find. Meanwhile, such a weapon had appeared before their very eyes. Why wouldn't this fact shock them? However, Endless Scars and Breeze Wine did not know that the Death's Sigh Violet Cloud wielded was not, in fact, a fragmented legendary item. It was simply a replica. Only, this replica was slightly special. Death's Sigh, replica, two-handed staff, epic rank. Level 45, level 120, level 45. Equipment requirement, strength 400, intelligence 700. Attack power plus 1650. Strength plus 120, agility plus 80, endurance plus 105, intelligence plus 142, vitality plus 161. When staff is wielded, casting speed increased by 15%. Cast range plus 10. Magic damage increased by 20%. All healing effects increased by 25%. Spell critical rate increased by 10%. Mana consumption decreased by 10%. All magical skills plus 2 levels. Ignore levels plus 10. Durability 220/220. Additional passive skill dash. Death's Harvest. Whenever a creature dies within 40 yards, wielder will regenerate 1% of their mana. Simultaneously, wielder will receive a death buff, reducing the death penalty by 1% when wielder dies. Buff can stack up to 30 times. Additional active skill 1 dash. Dimensional Fracture deals absolute damage 2 tiers above wielder's tier, up to a maximum of tier 4, to an area of 20 by 60 yards. Attack ignores all defensive and invulnerability buffs. At the same time, the attack will inflict a stun debuff to everyone within 40 yards of the wielder for 3 seconds. Cooldown, 10 minutes. Non-cleric classes can only use this skill when their HP is below 50%. All effects are halved. Additional active skill 2 dash. Shadow Rage, use mana to form Shadow Blades. Every Shadow Blade costs 100 mana. Each Shadow Blade's strength is equal to 150% of wielder's intelligence, and inflicts an additional 20% shadow damage. Wielder can produce a maximum of 300 Shadow Blades. Duration, 30 seconds. Cooldown 3 hours. Non-cleric classes can only use this skill when their HP is below 50%. All effects are halved. The blacksmith god Soros crafted this replica using the fragments of the legendary staff Death's Sigh. Replica can be upgraded by absorbing 5 god crystals. Current crystals absorbed 0/5. Although it was a replica, it contained fragments of the real article, making it far stronger than any ordinary epic weapon. When Shirfong had appraised this weapon, he had been shocked. As long as they gathered a sufficient number of god crystals, Death's Sigh could evolve into fragmented legendary weapon. Zero Wing really does possess a lot of secrets. As Endless Scars stared at the weapon in Violet Cloud's hands, she could not help but cover the appearing on her face, joy and passion burning in her eyes. However, she quickly suppressed her emotions and returned to her usual calm and indifference. It seems that I need to have a chat with Abandoned Wave. Meanwhile, after Alice's death, the summoned Flame Monarch began to disappear from the stage. Fear filled the audience's eyes as they stared at Shirfong and Violet Cloud in awe. Currently, Starstreak was the only member of the Evil Dragon battle team remaining on the stage. Unfortunately, he had no hope of defeating both Shirfong and Violet Cloud. The match was as good as over. A recently established guild had contended with Miracle, which had existed in the virtual gaming world for many years. No one would believe this. Although the competition's outcome had yet to be decided, the various Dark Arena battle teams would record the Asura battle team's fame, listing it as a team to take note of. After all, this competition wasn't like the Asura battle team's matches against the Glorious Lions. In the previous competition, Battle Wolves had treated the Dark Arena's competitions like a hobby. Hence, the Super Guild hadn't sent its full force into the competition. Meanwhile, it was obvious that Miracle took the competition seriously. Otherwise, the Super First-Rate Guild would not have dispatched the Witch of the West and Speedstar. Most importantly, it had instructed the Sword Freak, Miracle Dragon, to lead the team. Indeed, as everyone had expected, Starstreak stood no chance against Shirfong, who had activated Twofold Berserk. After a few bouts, Starstreak had exhausted his means of protecting himself. Eventually, Shirfong killed him with Instant Strike, surprising the crowd once again. Starstreak's defeat ushered in the start of the third round. This upcoming fight would decide the outcome. Naturally, for such an important battle, Miracle Dragon, the battle team's leader, took to the stage himself. Miracle's reputation was riding on this battle. They could not afford to lose this next match. With each step Miracle Dragon took, his aura grew slightly stronger. By the time the man reached the stage's center, the audience felt as if they were staring at death itself. "It'll be too boring to fight only one person. The rest of you just face together. I'll end this battle in 10 moves!" Miracle Dragon proudly proclaimed as he thrust his great sword into the ground and looked towards Shirfong and the others. The instant Miracle Dragon said so, the audience immediately broke into an uproar. Chapter 1161 Sword Freak. Chapter 1161 Sword Freak. Hellscythe _Fluffy Goblin. Chapter 1161 Sword Freak. Upon Miracle Dragon's sudden declaration, the arena boiled with excitement. Does he want a 1-on-2 fight? As expected of the Sword Freak. He's too domineering. Has Miracle lost their minds? They could have won this competition, yet they want to take such a risk. Miracle is probably trying to earn back their reputation. That sounds about right. The Evil Dragon battle team has already lost 2 rounds. Even if they win this competition, it won't be anything to boast about. The audience discussed the declaration fervently, each person having their own opinions. Some felt that Miracle Dragon was being a fool, while others thought that the Sword Freak wanted to show off the guild's strength. However, they could all agree on one thing: Miracle Dragon's gamble was somewhat risky. The Asura battle team still had 2 players remaining. One was a berserker, and the other was an assassin. This class composition was somewhat disadvantageous for a swordsman like Miracle Dragon. Berserkers had higher strength than swordsmen, while assassins were faster and more nimble. Although Miracle Dragon possessed superior combat techniques, if he had to clash head-on with a berserker while guarding against an assassin's interference, he would easily lose any advantage. Moreover, both Fire Dance and Gentle Snow were relatively famous experts in God's domain. While the guild could redeem much of its lost reputation if Miracle Dragon won, its reputation would plummet further if the swordsman lost. Big Sis Rain, the Asura battle team actually has a chance of winning. Although Miracle Dragon is very famous, when it comes to strength, he is no match for the Witch of the West. If Fire Dance and Gentle Snow work together, they'll have at least a 50% chance of emerging victorious, Blue Phoenix said excitedly. Miracle Dragon was also known as the Sword Freak. Almost everyone in the virtual gaming world knew of him. He had gained his fame due to the secret pavilion's evaluation. He had been deemed as the expert closest to grasping a domain. Due to this reputation, peak experts from various super guilds had challenged him, using the opportunity to improve themselves. After all, only domain realm experts were considered super guilds and super first-rate guilds' true mainstays. Many had also challenged Miracle Dragon to gain an understanding of just how far they were from their own domains. Hence, Miracle Dragon's fame had grown with each passing day. If it came down to a one-on-one fight, neither Fire Dance nor Gentle Snow was a match for Miracle Dragon. However, if these women worked together to supplement their weaknesses, they should be able to defeat him. Emerging victorious? Phoenix Rain quietly observed Miracle Dragon. I don't remember him being a rash person. It was common knowledge that Miracle Dragon was wildly arrogant. However, this arrogance was due to his strength. While Miracle Dragon might act crazily, he almost never did anything without being confident of success. A 1-on-2 fight was already disadvantageous, but Miracle Dragon had also claimed that he would win in 10 moves. He had forced himself onto a path with no retreat. This was no longer arrogance. He was simply seeking death. As Phoenix Rain considered warning Sherfoam, Miracle Dragon glanced at the other swordsman, who had remained silent all this time. What? Are you afraid? I've already offered you an edge in this match, a higher chance of winning the competition. If you don't want to accept the challenge, then just send your fighter up here. But don't say that I didn't give you a chance. The moment Miracle Dragon finished speaking, the audience began to echo his words. Asura battle team, are you a bunch of cowards? You're even afraid to accept this challenge. You guys are even too scared to accept a 2-on-1 match? It seems that the rumors are true. You guys only have a few capable experts. The rest of you are just for show. The spectators were either large guild upper echelons or famous experts. The outcome of the competition between Asura and Evil Dragon was none of their concern. They only wanted to collect as much information as possible. They could learn far more if the Asura battle team sent 2 experts to face the Sword Freak, rather than 1. Just what is his goal? Meanwhile, inside a VIP room, Miracle Dragon's behavior had confused Purple Jade. Among the many swordsmen in God's domain, she was most eager to challenge Miracle Dragon. There were 3 reasons for this. First, unlike other swordsmen who used 2 one-handed swords, both of she and Miracle Dragon used great swords. Second, Miracle Dragon was known as the closest swordsman to achieving a domain. If she fought Miracle Dragon, she could get a clearer view of her future goal. As for the third and most important reason, she wanted to learn Miracle Dragon's trademark skill, weakness observation. This ability was precisely the reason Miracle Dragon had few rivals among experts of the same realm. It was also the reason he had earned the title Sword Freak. By observing his opponents, he could grasp their weaknesses and launch a series of seemingly crazy attacks. However, while he might have appeared to have gone mad, in reality, he was extremely calm. His attacks were perfectly choreographed. In the end, his insane attack method would throw his opponents off, and he usually beat them senseless. How could an expert, who had mastered such a powerful move, take such a huge risk and provoke the Asura battle team? Jade, your observation is correct. Yuan Tieshi nodded, smiling. As you suspected, Miracle Dragon does not take risks lightly. He only acts when he is absolutely confident of succeeding. But defeating both Fire Dance and Gentle Snow in 10 moves is too difficult, even for him. Purple Jade simply could not figure out how Miracle Dragon could win in 10 moves. No, he can't, Yuan Tieshi said as he caressed his beard. Chuckling, he continued. Some time ago, he had secretly class-changed into the hidden class Magic Swordsman. Moreover, he received a Tier 3 Surekill skill book, which the guild had only obtained after much difficulty. With the epic equipment the Miracle Guild has lent him, his combat power has risen significantly. Magic Swordsman? Purple Jade's eyes sparkled when she heard these words, a hint of envy blooming in her heart. Magic Swordsman was a hidden class that focused on attacks. Although the class could not compare to a peak class like the Necromancer, it was one of the few advanced classes. Do you think Miracle Dragon would be so foolish and challenge the Asura battle team for no good reason? Yuan Tieshi could not help but shift his gaze towards Shifeng. I wonder how Yifeng intends to respond? If it were up to me, I'd refuse this challenge. At most, I'd give up this round and leave both players to fight in a 2-on-3 match. This way, we'd have a higher chance of winning the competition. Although Miracle took this competition seriously, there were only 4 noteworthy experts on the Evil Dragon battle team. Although the remaining 6 were extraordinarily strong, there was an obvious gap between them and the former 4. If the Asura battle team wanted to win this competition, a 2-on-3 match would be more advantageous. As soon as Yuan Tieshi said so, Shifeng stood up, a serious expression on his face as he looked at Miracle Dragon. All right, we don't have any issues. I hope you don't regret your decision. Regret? Rest assured, I will not regret it. Miracle Dragon did not take Shifeng's warning seriously in the least. However, he liked Shifeng's personality. Unfortunately, the man's worries were superfluous. Rather, Shifeng should focus on helping Fire Dance and Gentle Snow survive against him for 10 moves. When the audience heard Shifeng agree to Miracle Dragon's request, they erupted into cheers. Ha! What a fool! Yuan Tieshi could not help but roll his eyes at Shifeng. Despite knowing that it was a trap, Shifeng decided to jump right in. Chapter 1162 Madness vs. Madness. Chapter 1162 Madness vs. Madness. Hellscythe _ Fluffy Goblin. Chapter 1162 Madness vs. Madness. When the participants for the 3rd round had been decided, the arena's audience began to grow restless. Part of the reason was that Shifeng had accepted Miracle Dragon's challenge, while another was the anticipation for the competition's outcome. If the Asura battle team won this match, they would secure a complete victory. Seated in a VIP room on the 3rd floor, Thousand Miles watched Shifeng, who stood beneath the stage, with burning rage. Phoenix Rain has truly done it this time. She even kept our intelligence department in the dark. Due to the Evil Dragon battle team having lost 2 matches in a row, they had no choice but to expose the strength Miracle Dragon had kept hidden to restore some of the guild's reputation. Not only did this disrupt his plans, but it also lost him a lot of resources. This mess's culprit was none other than the guild Phoenix Rain secretly supported, Zero Wing. Zero Wing was simply a recently established guild in a small kingdom. If not for Phoenix Rain's support, how could Zero Wing possibly obtain such a powerful weapon that could instantly kill 2 of Miracle's generals? Maple, investigate Zero Wing thoroughly. Find someone to tail every member of the Asura battle team as well. 1,000 Miles instructed Cleansed Maple. Understood. Cleansed Maple promptly bowed before taking his leave. At this point, Miracle was completely helpless against the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. After all, both were super first-rate guilds, and neither feared the other. If their guilds started an all-out war against each other, only other guilds would benefit. However, Zero Wing was different. It was only a subordinate guild Phoenix Rain controlled. It would be simple to cause trouble for the upstart guild, especially now that the Asura battle team had revealed that it possessed so many dazzling weapons and equipment. Phoenix Rain, I'll let you enjoy this situation for now. 1,000 Miles could not help but shift his gaze towards Death's Eye in Violet Cloud's hands, greed flashing in his eyes. The evil dragon battle team had only dared to expose their epic items because they didn't fear becoming targets. However, the Asura battle team didn't have that luxury. Revealing such items was akin to placing a fresh piece of meat before a pack of hungry wolves. Not only would the Asura battle team lose this competition, but they would also lose their weapons and equipment. As the third match's rules changed abruptly, the Dark Arena's host adjusted the team's payout rate. The Asura battle team's payout rate for a complete victory, in particular, had risen to 1-9, breaking the Dark Arena's record. The host is quite bold. What's there to be afraid of? This is the final match. In any case, we know that the Asura battle team has no chance of winning. Moreover, the host has earned a fortune this time. Before the competition had even begun, many had bet on the evil dragon battle team's complete victory. This time, the host must be trying to lure even more idiots away from their money. It's a pity that not many people here are fools. Rather than bet on the Asura battle team, it would be safer to bet on the evil dragon battle team. Although the returns are low, it's better than nothing. Everyone among the audience was sorely tempted as they looked at the new payout rates. However, practically no one would bet on the Asura battle team's complete victory. Instead, they all bet on the evil dragon battle team. Some of the players that had previously been reluctant to gamble had even placed bets on the evil dragon. Miracle had existed in the virtual gaming world for many years now. The sword freak Miracle Dragon was even famed for never acting without confidence. If he lost this next match, the Asura battle team would secure a complete victory. Yet, despite such a huge burden, Miracle Dragon still dared to do so. This could only mean that he was confident of succeeding. Meanwhile, inside another VIP room on the 3rd floor, although 4 people occupied the room, an extraordinarily chill atmosphere dominated the space. 9 Dragons, why are you here? Phoenix Rain glanced at 9 Dragons Emperor and Martial Dragon with disinterest. When she had previously rejected 1,000 Miles' proposal, 9 Dragons Emperor had already spoken ill of her in front of Kurong, the great pavilion master. He had even advised the guild elders to reduce her authority within the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. However, the Asura battle team's performance thus far had been astonishing. As a result, those who had schemed against her within the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion had no choice but to remain silent for now. Rain, must you be so cold? At the end of the day, we are from the same guild. 9 Dragons Emperor frowned. Very quickly, however, a kind smile formed on his face as he said, "Moreover, I am here to thank you. If not for your determination to support the Asura battle team, I wouldn't have been able to cooperate with Miracle and gain the support of many of their guild elders. If you're trying to flaunt your relationship with Miracle, then let me congratulate you. Only, do you think the great pavilion master will be pleased to see you work so closely with the guild's longtime rival?" Phoenix Rain giggled. "You!" 9 Dragons Emperor was momentarily speechless. After joining God's domain, the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion had frequently butted heads with Miracle. Recently, their guilds had caused a huge scene due to the situation on Thunder Island. In the end, they had exposed Thunder Island, and many other superpowers had begun to intervene. Due to this, Kurong's hatred for Miracle had grown more intense. "So what?" 9 Dragons Emperor said after recollecting his thoughts. Proudly, he proclaimed, "As long as I gain sufficient authority on Thunder Island, it won't matter if the great pavilion master disapproves of my methods. After all, he wants a beautiful future for the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion more than anything. You, on the other hand, are in a far more pitiful state. Now that you've invested so much money and resources into a useless, upstart guild, you don't even have the resources to hire help. How do you intend to compete on Thunder Island now? However, I can point you to a brighter path. Bet everything you have on the evil dragon battle team. This way, you can, more or less, earn what you need. At the very least, you'll be able to hire one player. Otherwise, you will only bring shame to our Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. Standing by the side, although Blue Phoenix wanted to say something, she was not in a good position to do so. Sarcasm tainted Nine Dragons Emperor's words. While he seemed to be offering advice secretly, he was sealing off their path of retreat. They had already rejected Thousand Miles' proposal. How could they bet on the evil dragon battle team now? If news of this matter spread, Phoenix Rain's position in the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion would certainly be awkward. Thank you for your kind suggestion. Smiling, Phoenix Rain turned to Blue Phoenix and said, Blue, take this epic mage robe and these items and bet them on the Asura battle team. Big Sis Rain. Blue Phoenix was stunned when she saw the items Phoenix Rain traded to her. Wasn't this wager a little too drastic? Phoenix Rain had passed her the items they had prepared for the campaign on Thunder Island. If they lost these items now, they would suffer for it on Thunder Island. Amazing! In the guild, others often call me ruthless. However, it would seem that I am no match for you, Rain. Although I bet plenty of resources and items on the evil dragon battle team, they are of little importance. You, on the other hand, actually bet the epic mage robes the guild obtained on the Asura battle team. I really must hand it to you. Nine Dragons Emperor praised the calm, composed Phoenix Rain. Inwardly, though, his heart fluttered in joy when he saw the items Phoenix Rain intended to gamble. The host was no fool if they were willing to offer a 1-to-9 payout rate. If one bet a piece of epic equipment, they could get 9 pieces if the Asura battle team won. Although the host wouldn't actually hand out 9 pieces of epic equipment, they would still offer items of equal value. However, could such an ideal situation happen? While Phoenix Rain and Nine Dragons Emperor had been talking, the timer above the stage had begun to count down. The arena fell silent as everyone focused on the 3 people on the stage. The spectators couldn't help but gasp when they saw the Asura battle team's formation. What are they trying to do? Everyone was dumbfounded as they watched Fire Dance walk to a corner of the stage while Gentle Snow stood within 20 yards of Miracle Dragon. These women's intentions couldn't be more obvious. The Asura battle team was trying to pick a one-on-one fight with Miracle Dragon. Chapter 1163 Swift Sword. Chapter 1163 Swift Sword. Hellscythe _ Fluffy Goblin. Chapter 1163 Swift Sword. Despite the timer's clear indication that the battle would begin soon, everyone stared at Sherfoam, who stood below the stage. They're actually letting one person take on Miracle Dragon? Aren't they underestimating the sword freak a little too much? That's right. Miracle Dragon is being kind enough to give the Asura battle team a chance, yet they're trying to throw that chance away. What fools! Has the Asura battle team's leader given up on the competition? How boring. He accepted Miracle Dragon's challenge, yet he's playing such tricks at the very last minute. Does he think that he can save his team's reputation even if they lose? The spectators couldn't help but glare at the Asura battle team with contempt. The originally exciting match had become a disappointing farce. Ha! This Asura battle team really is interesting. Nine Dragons Emperor could not help but laugh when he saw the formation. Turning to look at Phoenix Rain, he said, Rain, although I know you have a lot of resources on hand, there's no need to waste them like this, right? You might as well just give them to me if you want them gone so badly. As soon as Phoenix Rain had bet the epic mage robes their guild had obtained after much difficulty, the Asura battle team had pulled such a move. Nine Dragons Emperor even wondered if the Asura battle team were working for Miracle. The great Pavilion Master had personally awarded the epic mage robes to Phoenix Rain. If she lost the robes here, one could just imagine how angry the great Pavilion Master would be. Phoenix Rain remained silent. However, she looked rather pale. Just what is Yi Foam trying to do? She had not bet all of the weapons, equipment, and tools she had prepared for Thunder Island due to Nine Dragon Emperor's provocation. Rather, she had done so after carefully considering the matter. Currently, she didn't have enough resources to hire enough capable experts. Although she had signed an agreement with Sherfong, it was simply too difficult to occupy 2 monster encampments on Thunder Island. If she only managed to occupy 1 monster encampment, her results would be no match for 9 Dragon Emperors, who was working with Miracle. Her position in the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion would be no different than if she failed to occupy a single encampment. Hence, rather than wait for her inevitable fate, she'd rather go broke and gamble everything on the Asura battle team's complete victory. At the very least, if the team succeeded, she'd have a higher chance of occupying 2 encampments on Thunder Island. Even if she failed to do so, she was confident of occupying 1 encampment. However, Sherfeng's current decision had placed her in a very awkward position. Meanwhile, Blue Phoenix burned with rage. She wanted nothing more than to rush up to Sherfeng, crack his head open, and take a look at what was going through the man's mind. Sherfeng had thrown away their chances of victory. As everyone chatted amongst themselves, the timer finally came to an end. Standing on the stage, Miracle Dragon glanced at Fire Dance in the corner. He then shifted his gaze to the valiant war goddess before him, anger burning in his eyes as he asked, "Is this the arrangement you have decided on?" Originally, he thought he would get to enjoy a good fight. He hadn't expected the Asura battle team to make such a move. Gentle Snow was certainly talented. She had even led a first-rate guild before. She was also a great beauty. In the virtual gaming world, many knew her as a peak expert and a goddess. However, none of that meant anything to players on his level. In his eyes, Gentle Snow's only noteworthy achievement was her fight in White River City, during which she had reached the refinement realm mid-battle. However, with such combat standards, he could have killed Gentle Snow even before he had become a magic swordsman. "That's right. I'll be your opponent," Gentle Snow calmly declared. "Are you trying to annoy me?" Miracle Dragon asked with a frosty tone as he glared at Gentle Snow. Even the area around Miracle Dragon had frozen. "I'll give you one last chance. Come at me together." However, Gentle Snow and Fire Dance remained motionless. Either of them showed any signs of changing their mind. "So be it. Don't blame me for being merciless," Miracle Dragon bellowed. Activating Wind Blade, he dashed towards Fire Dance. The audience barely saw his afterimages. In the blink of an eye, Miracle Dragon crossed 10 yards. Less than 100 yards separated the swordsman and the assassin. It would only take a few seconds for Miracle Dragon to reach his target. So fast. The spectators were surprised by Miracle Dragon's speed. Even peak assassins, who were famed for their speed, would be no match for him. However, even when less than 20 yards separated Miracle Dragon and Fire Dance, the latter refused to move as she quietly watched the swordsman approach. "You're looking to die," Miracle Dragon growled. He had long since locked his killing intent on Fire Dance in hopes of forcing the assassin to react. However, Fire Dance's attitude was still lax. She underestimated him. Miracle Dragon no longer held back. He unsheathed the light blue greatsword from his back and swung it at Fire Dance. The instant Miracle Dragon slashed at Fire Dance, everyone heard the whistle of the blade slice through the air. No one in the audience could see Miracle Dragon's great sword or his hands. It was as if they had vanished. As expected of the sword freak, his swift sword has improved once again. 9 Dragons Emperor exclaimed as he watched Miracle Dragon. What a pity. Fire Dance won't even know how she died. Swift Sword was one of Miracle Dragon's trademark moves. Although the attack with his great sword seemed like a normal slash, that swing contained the power of every muscle in his body. With this power, he could manipulate his great sword like a whip. His attack could exceed the normal speed limit the system had set on players. This technique's principle was similar to that of strength superpositioning. However, while the theory was simple, very few peak experts could achieve it. Not a single player could employ the technique to Miracle Dragon's level. This was the reason behind Miracle Dragon's title of Sword Freak. Even a Void Realm expert would struggle to perceive Miracle Dragon's attacks. They would need all of their concentration, pushing their five senses to their very limits, to barely combat the swordsman's attacks. Meanwhile, Fire Dance had only recently set foot into the Refinement Realm. No one expected her to see Miracle Dragon's great sword. This was also why the Asura battle team only had a chance if both Fire Dance and Gentle Snow attacked Miracle Dragon together. Dang! The clang of metal reverberated throughout the arena. Miracle Dragon's great sword had stopped roughly 5 yards away from Fire Dance. Before anyone had realized it, Gentle Snow had appeared before Fire Dance, her silver great sword acting as an immovable wall that prevented Miracle Dragon from reaching the assassin. You! Miracle Dragon was confused when he saw Gentle Snow. He simply could not figure out how Gentle Snow had appeared before him. He couldn't understand how the Berserker had managed to stop his swift sword either. As Miracle Dragon pondered these questions, Gentle Snow put some strength into her arms, using her silver great sword to force Miracle Dragon a few steps back. The gap between their strengths was now obvious. Can you take this match seriously now? Gentle Snow glanced at Miracle Dragon, her voice extremely calm as she spoke, acting as if Miracle Dragon's swift sword wasn't worth her concern. Chapter 1164 Duel of Swords. Chapter 1164 Duel of Swords. Hellscythe _Fluffy Goblin. Chapter 1164 Duel of Swords. Miracle Dragon's eyebrows jumped in surprise when he saw Gentle Snow's calm exterior. The audience was similarly stunned. Gentle Snow was incredibly famous in the virtual gaming world. However, when it came to combat standards, she could only reign supreme among first-rate guilds. Compared to the older generation's peak experts like Miracle Dragon, however, she was greatly inferior. No one had expected her current performance. Even Galaxy Past and Purple Eye, Gentle Snow's old rivals who had come to watch this competition, were dumbfounded. Is that really the Gentle Snow I know? Purple Eye balled her fists as she stared at Gentle Snow, her heart refusing to believe this. In the past, she hadn't been very familiar with Superpower's peak experts. She only knew that these experts were extremely powerful, and they lived in two completely different worlds. There was little chance for them to encounter each other. However, after participating in the Secret Pavilion's simulation training system, she understood how strong these peak experts were. Their combat standards were beyond her imagination. With equal equipment and levels, even 10 of her wouldn't be enough of a warm-up for one of those peak experts. Yet, the Gentle Snow, who had stood on the same stage as the Star Alliance, could now hold her ground against a peak expert like Sword Freak. How could she not find this shocking? I have truly underestimated you. It's no wonder why you had become Ouroboros's guild leader. Miracle Dragon could not help but smile the blade of disaster, which still trembled in his hands. However, whether or not you take me seriously will depend on your ability to block my next move. Saying so, Miracle Dragon's expression changed. Taking a deep breath, he took a step forward and executed Swift Sword once more. This time, however, he did not settle for a single slash. Rather, he launched a series of attacks. While Swift Sword was difficult to defend against, an expert of similar standards would have no issues blocking one strike. Hence, Miracle Dragon decided to up his assault and execute multiple Swift Sword attacks. This way, even an expert of the same standards would not casually challenge Miracle Dragon head-on. Shrill, whistling sounds reached the audience's ears. Everyone was fascinated as they watched Miracle Dragon attacks. This was especially true for the swordsman experts among the crowd. Miracle Dragon's swordsmanship was the peak they all aimed for. Enraptured by the flashing sword lights, even Starstreak, who was on the same team as Miracle Dragon, had goosebumps. If he stood in Gentle Snow's shoes, he would have no choice but to activate a life-saving skill against Miracle Dragon's consecutive swift swords. Just before the sword light struck Gentle Snow, the Berserker swung her silver great sword. Suddenly, an explosion shook the arena. As Gentle Snow continued to brandish her great sword, a series of explosions rang out from the stage. It sounded as if the stage were being bombarded. After several seconds, Miracle Dragon stopped his assault, shock plastered on his face. Even when he had faced Domain Realm experts, they had only blocked a portion of his attacks while relying on their footwork to evade the rest. However, among the 15 attacks he had just launched, Gentle Snow had effortlessly blocked every one. This was the first time he had encountered such a situation since joining God's domain. However, Miracle Dragon did not know that Gentle Snow currently wore the level 50 magic light set. Although she was missing the chest piece, she still had the 7 Luminaries battle armor, which possessed the passive skill magic reinforcement, increasing her physique by 30%. With her superior basic attributes and physique, Gentle Snow had no issues blocking Miracle Dragon's swift sword. Too strong! She's just too strong! Was the Snow Goddess always this strong? Crap! Is she the incarnation of the War Goddess? The skill Gentle Snow displayed flabbergasted the audience. Although many experts watched the battle, the number of people that could actually block Miracle Dragon's consecutive swift swords could be counted on one hand. Everyone had assumed that the Asura battle team had given up and just wanted to end this match as quickly as possible. However, it would seem that this wasn't the case. Who is this Gentle Snow? Thousand Miles' expression was twisted and ugly. Even the various large guilds had detailed information on Gentle Snow's leadership of Ouroboros, not to mention a super first-rate guild like Miracle. However, no matter how many times Thousand Miles read through Gentle Snow's files, he had not found any information that hinted at the woman's capability of standing against Miracle Dragon. Although Gentle Snow originated from a first-rate guild, she had never taken part in any of the superpowers training systems. She hadn't been tutored by a famous expert either, yet she now stood toe-to-toe against a peak expert like Miracle Dragon. Seeing Gentle Snow's aura, Thousand Miles was even afraid that the woman would surpass Miracle Dragon at any moment. How could this happen? In another VIP room, Blue Phoenix was ecstatic. The Asura battle team has won for sure this time. If Gentle Snow alone could already put Miracle Dragon into such a bind, the duo should have a 70% chance of defeating Miracle Dragon if Fire Dance joined the battle. Phoenix Rain sighed in relief. She hadn't expected the Asura battle team to have such a trump card. Damn it! How has Gentle Snow's combat power improved so much? Nine Dragons Emperor, who sat beside Phoenix Rain, could not help his growing anxiety when he saw Miracle Dragon at a disadvantage. I admit that you are skilled enough for me to take seriously. Miracle Dragon congratulated Gentle Snow. Aside from shock, his gaze contained a hint of joy. I never thought that I would meet an expert such as yourself in the Dark Arena. It seems that I haven't wasted my time making the trip here. I'll show you my latest creation. If you can block this, I'll admit defeat. Saying so, Miracle Dragon activated his Berserk skill. Suddenly, his aura exploded from his body. It felt as if a fierce beast had just woken from its slumber. The man's blade of disaster instantly released a black glow. When the greatsword moved, the weapon even sliced apart space itself as it left a black line in its wake. The audience gasped when they saw the greatsword's sharpness. It seems that Miracle Dragon is finally getting serious. When Starstreak noticed the blade of disaster cut apart space, his gaze focused on the swordsman. In God's domain, the swordsman class had 2 development paths, the dual sword style and the great sword style. Among them, the dual sword style was more common. As one-handed swords were lighter, they were more suited to players who pursued speed and dexterity. When fighting monsters, one could also use either or both hands to block an attack. As for the greatsword style, needless to say, a greatsword was much heavier than one-handed swords. This, in turn, made greatswords more difficult to handle. However, the advantage was obvious: they possessed great destructive power. Miracle Dragon's talent was suited to the greatsword style. Not only could his combat technique, Swift Sword, make up for the greatsword's lack of speed, but the weapon's destructive power also made up for the Swift Sword technique's lack of power. Most importantly, Miracle Dragon could use weakness observation, allowing him to detect his opponent's weak points and exerting his greatsword's full potential. Moreover, Miracle Dragon was a magic swordsman. With the magic enhancement, his attack's speed and power had risen to a whole new level. Even those old, domain realm monsters wouldn't casually face the man head-on. Fall! 6 extreme slashes! As Miracle Dragon opened his eyes, he dashed at Gentle Snow as he launched 6 slashes. However, his attacks were faster than his consecutive swift swords. This time, he completed all 6 slashes in a single breath, targeting Gentle Snow's blind spots. It was simply impossible for the Berserker to dodge all of the attacks. The instant Miracle Dragon executed 6 extreme slashes, the peak experts in the various VIP rooms held their breath as their eyes widened, deeply afraid of missing this exciting moment. Meanwhile, Gentle Snow, the recipient of this powerful technique, could feel the pressure from Miracle Dragon's 6 extreme slashes. The pressure weighed down her arms and legs. How could she block such a technique? Gentle Snow had no choice but to go all out. Legacy Berserk Skill, Starlight Saint. 7 Luminaries Domain. Chapter 1165 Complete Victory. Chapter 1165 Complete Victory. Hellscythe _ Fluffy Goblin. Chapter 1165 Complete Victory. She's too strong! Is she an NPC in disguise? When Gentle Snow had activated her Berserk skill, the crowd had been startled. As Gentle Snow activated Starlight Saint, her originally pitch-black armor transformed into a white, feathery gown. 3 pairs of silvery white metallic wings, decorated with golden divine runes, stretched from her back. Golden divine runes also surfaced on Gentle Snow's unblemished cheeks and forehead, adding a hint of divinity to her appearance. However, the players in the audience were experts. They naturally would not be frightened by a change in appearance. The real reason that they were intimidated the feeling of power Gentle Snow gave off. This feeling was different from the pressure one normally felt from stronger opponents. This was kind of like the fear they felt when facing creatures of a higher life rating. Normally, they only experienced this feeling when facing NPCs or monsters. Yet, they were afraid of Gentle Snow. Inside a third-floor VIP room, surprise colored Phoenix Rain's expression as she watched. Does she have a hidden class as well? This thought surfaced in Phoenix Rain's mind. She had already taken a look through the files of the Asura battle team's members. Although the information recorded stated that Gentle Snow possessed this kind of berserk skill, as most berserk skills would alter the player's body, she hadn't bothered to look into the matter further. Now, however, Phoenix Rain was certain that Gentle Snow possessed a hidden class. She would never give off such a powerful feeling otherwise. The only explanation Phoenix Rain could come up with was that Gentle Snow had used one of those mysterious legacy berserk skills. Meanwhile, only peak legacies possessed legacy berserk skills. Thinking up to this point, Phoenix Rain could not help her growing curiosity about Zero Wing. She could accept the fact that the Asura battle team's members exposed one epic item after another. However, she could not fathom how Zero Wing had managed to obtain a peak legacy. In God's domain, peak legacies were much rarer than epic weapons and equipment. Even now, the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion had not found a single clue leading to a peak legacy, much less obtaining one. As for Miracle, only after mobilizing all of the guild's power did they manage to obtain a peak legacy for the Witch of the West. As everyone was shocked by Gentle Snow's display, Miracle Dragon's 6 extreme slashes descended on the female player. This 6 extreme slashes technique was Miracle Dragon's current limit. Even peak experts of similar standards would be fortunate if they could block 2 or 3 of the slashes. If they did not activate a life-saving skill, the attack would devour their HP. As these 6 slashes were about to carve into Gentle Snow, 3 silvery white holy spears appeared before the Berserker. Gentle Snow's great sword had also transformed into 2 one-handed swords. This instantly resolved the issue of her previous blind spots. When Miracle Dragon's great sword descended, a series of crisp, metallic clangs echoed throughout the arena. In the end, Gentle Snow had blocked all 6 slashes. Moreover, she remained unharmed even after blocking the attacks. She had not lost a single HP. You blocked them all. Miracle Dragon's expression froze. The entire venue fell silent as the crowd stared at Gentle Snow incredulously. 1,000 Miles was more shocked than anyone. Miracle Dragon's strongest technique had been neutralized. How could this happen? While 1,000 Miles had considered the possibility of Gentle Snow blocking all 6 attacks successfully, it was with the assumption that she would use an invulnerability skill. However, Gentle Snow had not used anything like that. She had relied on her own techniques. How does a little guild like Zero Wing have such a genius? 1,000 Miles's jealousy began to bubble up as he watched the snow goddess. That's right, he envied Zero Wing. From Gentle Snow's data, he knew that the woman had not received any training from a special system, yet with weapons and equipment on par with Miracle Dragons, she had suppressed her opponent. This was insane. If Gentle Snow joined Miracle, even 1,000 Miles himself couldn't imagine what kind of future lay ahead of the woman. Moreover, Gentle Snow was a talented manager. Rather than calling her a genius, it would be more apt to call her a prodigy. If Gentle Snow became his subordinate, it was highly possible that he could rise to guild leader in the future. Aside from Gentle Snow, Alluring Summer and Violet Cloud, who had taken to the stage in the previous matches, were similarly talented. In Miracle, they would definitely be considered top-class players. Yet, such prodigies and geniuses continued to emerge within a small guild like Zero Wing. This was ludicrous. 1,000 Miles suddenly had an idea: poach Gentle Snow and the others from Miracle. This is too amazing! She actually managed to suppress the Sword Freak! Is this the Snow Goddess's true strength? How did she block that move? Although many among the audience were experts, they all knew that they would die instantly under the onslaught of Miracle Dragon's 6 extreme slashes. However, by the looks of Gentle Snow, it was clear that she still had energy to spare after her defense. Everyone in the crowd had goosebumps. They realized that they were about to bear witness to a historic moment. Gentle Snow was going to defeat the Sword Freak Miracle Dragon. The Asura battle team would annihilate the Evil Dragon battle team. Big Sis Snow is so amazing! I couldn't even see those attacks, yet she blocked all of them. If I had been in her shoes, I would have been defeated. Violet Cloud watched Gentle Snow with admiration. I wonder when I'll reach that realm? In response, Sherfong simply chuckled. In reality, he wanted to reassure Violet Cloud that her combat techniques were stronger than the Snow Goddess's. It was the gap between their equipment that made the difference. The 7 Luminaries' battle armor, in particular, was almost a cheat against melee players. Gentle Snow would not fare so well against the Witch of the West. The 7 Luminaries' battle armor had 2 passive skills. Among them, Magic Reinforcement could improve the user's physique by 30%. Physique improvement in God's domain was not limited to increasing a player's speed and stamina. More importantly, a player's 5 senses also improved, which allowed them to keep up with speeds they normally could not. This was the benefit of an item that had once been legendary equipment. Despite its fragmented state, its effects were still frightening. Miracle Dragon also felt the effects of the 7 Luminaries' domain, decreasing his speed significantly. Even if she hadn't used the 3 Holy Spears, with Gentle Snow's current level, basic attributes, and physique, she would have no problem blocking 5 of the 6 attacks. With her battle armor's frightening defense, she wouldn't receive much damage from one strike. This was what made fragmented legendary items so terrifying. A single item could create a peak expert. This was also why the various large guilds in the past had been so desperate to obtain fragmented legendary items. Meanwhile, on the stage, just as Gentle Snow was about to display the 7 Luminaries' domain's might, Miracle Dragon revealed a bitter smile as he raised one hand and forfeited the match. Miracle Dragon had kept his word. Before everyone realized what had happened, the system automatically declared Gentle Snow and Fire Dance the winners of this match. Following which, the competition came to an end. The Asura battle team had achieved complete victory over the Evil Dragon battle team. Chapter 1166 Asura becomes famous. Chapter 1166 Asura becomes famous. Hellscythe_Fluffy Goblin. Chapter 1166. Asura becomes famous. Only after the system announcement did the audience react. The competition. It's over, just like that? This is ridiculous. The Asura battle team has achieved another complete victory. After these 3 matches, everyone finally understood what high-level PvP truly meant. The duels today were on a whole different level compared to the PvP battles they fought before. Particularly, the experts of first and second-rate guilds were so excited that they had forgotten to breathe as they watched the match between Miracle Dragon and Gentle Snow. However, they all had to admit that this competition had completely exceeded their expectations. Before the competition had begun, almost no one had believed that the Asura battle team could achieve victory, much less a complete victory. After all, the evil dragon battle team's strength was simply overwhelming. Meanwhile, this upset had also caused many people to cry out in anguish. They all regretted not betting on the Asura battle team's complete victory. That was a 1-to-9 payout rate they were talking about. If they had wagered all of their guild's resources, the returns would be unimaginable. After all, every player capable of entering the Dark Arena had extraordinary origins. It would not be difficult to collect several hundred pieces of excellent equipment, rare tools, and materials. If they had won the bet, they would earn back several thousand items. Just the thought gave them shivers. After the competition ended, the Asura battle team had officially been added to the various superpowers list of targets. After Miracle Dragon left the stage, Alice walked up to him and asked in a soft, but serious tone, "Miracle, you're the face of the guild. Why didn't you go all out?" She knew full well how powerful Miracle Dragon was. Others might not, but she had seen his strength with her own eyes. Miracle Dragon's 6 extreme slashes was far from his true power. When Miracle Dragon activated his Berserk skill, he could execute 9 extreme slashes. Although there was only a difference of 3 attacks, he could have defeated Gentle Snow, yet the swordsman had not done so. As a result, the evil dragon battle team had lost the competition. In addition, this wounded the guild's reputation. "You think too highly of me. Although I did conserve my strength, do you think Gentle Snow wasn't doing the same?" Miracle Dragon could not help but turn to the Asura battle team's snow goddess. Shaking his head, he smiled bitterly as he said, "Don't forget she, too, possesses a peak class. Rather than exposing my 9 extreme slashes and forcing Gentle Snow to use her twofold berserk in return, we'd benefit more if I saved that trump card for Thunder Island. Don't forget, Thunder Island is our guild's true target." Hearing Miracle Dragon's explanation, Alice understood. While everyone believed that the strongest aspect of peak classes was the lack of shortcomings, in reality, the true power of peak classes was their ability to use twofold berserk. In fact, she hadn't bothered to use twofold berserk against Sherfone and Violet Cloud because she wanted to surprise the various super guilds in the contest for Thunder Island. Thinking up to this point, Alice shifted her gaze to Sherfone, her expression tensing. Could he possess a peak class as well? Alice suddenly recalled the scene when Sherfone had sliced apart the Flame Monarch's fireballs. Sherfone definitely had not achieved that feat simply by relying on a single berserk skill. After all, he was only a Tier 1 player, not Tier 2. If this was true, then Zero Wing really was terrifying. Despite being an upstart guild in a small kingdom, Zero Wing had 2 players that wielded peak legacies. Even Miracle couldn't say the same. They won? Inside a VIP room, Purple Jade's eyes burned with fighting spirit and frustration as she looked at Gentle Snow. Originally, her goal was to defeat the sword freak Miracle Dragon. Now, however, Gentle Snow had defeated that old monster, and she was only a few years older than Purple Jade. Moreover, Gentle Snow had never experienced any superpowers system training. This realization wounded Purple Jade's pride. However, it also rekindled her hope. At the very least, she now knew that someone from the younger generation could defeat Miracle Dragon with a sword. Zero Wing is truly an interesting guild. They keep surprising everyone. As Yuan Tianxin watched Sherfeng, he recalled his first meeting with the young man. The youth, who hadn't been worth mentioning, had grown into an expert that even he feared. It really made him wonder if he were getting old. Jade, let's go. The Dark Arena's auction is likely about to start. We need to send our items over. Purple Jade nodded in response. She then followed Yuan Tiexin and left the VIP room. In another VIP room, Nine Dragons' Emperor was extremely pale. He paled further when he noticed Phoenix Rain's grin. Although the woman hadn't said anything, he felt as if she had plunged a knife into his heart. Miracle! That bunch of trash. They made me lose so many resources. Although he had mentioned that he had only bet a small amount of unimportant resources on the evil dragon battle team, in reality, he had wagered plenty of excellent weapons and equipment. Among them, there were over 50 pieces of level 40 dark gold equipment. Currently, even independent expert players were only around level 39 or level 40. Despite the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion frequently mobilizing their members to kill field bosses of higher levels, they had a very small stock of level 40 dark gold equipment. Yet, he had lost over 50 pieces in the blink of an eye. With 50 level 40 dark gold items, he could easily employ 10 peak experts. However, what annoyed him the most was the fact that Phoenix Rain had made a fortune. Just the thought of Phoenix Rain gaining the equivalent of 9 epic mage robes was enough to drive him mad. We're leaving! Without speaking to Phoenix Rain, Nine Dragons' Emperor stormed out of the room with Martial Dragon. Ha! Big Sis Rain, Zero Wing is simply amazing! They actually achieved a complete victory against the evil dragon battle team. Not only have we earned a fortune from outbet, but we also got a huge haul from the competition's total bets. With this, we won't have to worry about needing resources for the competition on Thunder Island. Blue Phoenix exclaimed excitedly after Nine Dragons' Emperor had left the room. We have indeed won this time. However, the contest on Thunder Island is key, Phoenix Rain said, smiling faintly. This victory was only secondary to her. What truly impressed Phoenix Rain was the strength that Zero Wing had displayed today. With the resources she had obtained today, they definitely had a chance of occupying 2 monster encampments. However, inside another VIP room, when Abandoned Wave saw the Asura battle team win, he started to laugh like a lunatic. I'll let you celebrate for now. Soon, however, you will fall from heaven straight into hell. Abandoned Wave wore a sinister smile as he watched Sherfong and the others. However, as Abandoned Wave was about to leave the room, he suddenly noticed a familiar figure in the Asura battle team's rest area. This person was none other than the commander of Miracle's Purgatory Legion, 1,000 Miles. 1,000 Miles showed no anger over the evil dragon battle team's loss. On the contrary, he wore a friendly smile as he approached Gentle Snow. Abandoned Wave was shocked. Every time he had spoken with 1,000 Miles, the man wore an indifferent expression. 1,000 Miles didn't respect him at all, yet the man smiled at Gentle Snow. No matter how Abandoned Wave looked at it, he found it odd. Hello, I am 1,000 Miles, a Vice Guild leader in Miracle. I watched the entire competition, and I have to admit that your performance was dazzling. May I ask if you would be interested in joining Miracle? If you are, I guarantee you that you'll immediately be elevated to the position of Guild Elder and will be promoted to Vice Commander in the Purgatory Legion. In the future, you might even become a Vice Guild leader. Chapter 1167 Impervious to Reason. Chapter 1167 Impervious to Reason. Hellscythe _ Fluffy Goblin. Chapter 1167 Impervious to Reason. Although 1,000 Miles' tone was plain, his words stunned everyone in the arena. Even the evil dragon battle team's members, who were approaching from a short distance away, revealed stunned expressions, confusion in their eyes as they looked at 1,000 Miles. What's the commander trying to do? Silent March could not believe her ears when she heard 1,000 Miles' offer. She was not surprised that 1,000 Miles had taken the initiative to invite Gentle Snow to Miracle. Rather, she was shocked by what he promised the Snow Goddess. Miracle was a super first-rate guild. When it came to number and quality of experts, Miracle was even stronger than some super guilds. The guild had no shortage of newcomers each year, either. However, No newcomer had ever become a guild elder or vice commander of one of Miracle's trump card legions the moment they joined. Even Silent March, a genius Miracle had nurtured internally, did not receive such a treatment. The vice guild leader really is going all out this time. Alice simply smiled. It was extremely difficult to become an elder in Miracle as there were a limited number of spots. Unless the guild expanded, it would not add more elders. As for the position of the Purgatory Legion's vice commander, countless players vied for such an honor. 1,000 Miles didn't have the authority to give it away. Even Miracle's guild leader could not make such a decision alone. Such an important matter needed to be discussed among the guild's upper echelons. Since 1,000 Miles had spoken with such certainty, he was definitely prepared to pay a massive price to recruit Gentle Snow. Based on the woman's performance in the last match, it was possible that he could fulfill those promises. Miracle Dragon didn't comment on the matter at all. However, Miracle's other experts glared enviously at Gentle Snow. He had offered her the position of one of Miracle's elders. They all strove for that position. Only by becoming an elder would one have truly joined the ranks of Miracle's upper echelons. It was like joining a company's upper management. If they became one of Miracle's elders, even the guild leaders of first-rate guilds had to treat them with respect. 1,000 Miles had even promised Gentle Snow the position of vice guild leader. If they could become a vice guild leader, they would receive a portion of the guild's shares. They could also influence the guild's decisions. Standing by the side, Sherfong said nothing in regard to 1,000 Miles's offer, though he did frown. 1,000 Miles's poaching method was the perfect representation of how super first-rate guilds operated. Thank you for your invitation. However, I have no intention of leaving Zero Wing. Gentle Snow rejected the offer without hesitation. Why? Is Miracle not a match for Zero Wing? 1,000 Miles frowned. He hadn't expected Gentle Snow to reject him so straightforwardly. She hadn't even considered his offer. This reaction irked him a little. You are very strong. If you remain in a guild like Zero Wing, you won't be able to fulfill your potential. However, if you join Miracle, you'll be able to display your abilities fully. In the future, as Miracle continues to develop, you will even have the opportunity to become a branch guild leader and manage an entire kingdom or empire. Although 1,000 Miles hadn't been loud, the many expert players present could hear his words clearly, and they all gasped in shock. Many upper echelons and guild leaders stared at Gentle Snow enviously. They all wished they were standing in her shoes. Everyone knew that God's domain was massive and that even super guilds could not single-handedly rule over the entire game. Hence, superpowers would create branch guilds in the various kingdoms and empires to develop and expand their guilds as a whole. These branch guilds' management would be left to the branch guild leaders. Becoming a branch guild leader was the equivalent of establishing a guild of their own. Moreover, this guild would have the support of a super guilds. Becoming one of Miracle's branch guild leaders was many times better than becoming a vice guild leader. Even the main headquarters guild leader would have to treat them with respect. This was far better than being the guild leader of a measly first-rate guild. How about it? Won't you consider my offer? 1,000 Miles had already investigated Gentle Snow's situation. He knew that Blackwater had annexed Ouroboros. Ouroboros no longer existed in the virtual gaming world. However, if Gentle Snow became a branch guild leader, she would be fully capable of establishing another Ouroboros. Only said Ouroboros would bear the name Miracle's name. He believed that this offer could tempt the Snow Goddess. It was certainly a higher honor than being Zero Wing's vice guild leader. Thank you for your high evaluation, Vice Guild Leader Miles. However, I've already stated that I will not leave Zero Wing. If you have nothing else to discuss, I will be on my way, Gentle Snow said. She then turned and left, wanting nothing to do with 1,000 Miles. Everyone in the arena was flabbergasted. Gentle Snow had tossed away such a heaven-sent opportunity. They simply could not figure out what was going through Gentle Snow's mind. Had she lost the ambition she had when she had been the guild leader of a first-rate guild? Even if she had lost this ambition, she should still want to grow stronger. In that case, joining Miracle should be her best option. Big Sis Snow, you're so cool! I almost fell for you. Violet Cloud's eyes shone brightly as she tugged on Gentle Snow's delicate arm. Sherfong also released a sigh of relief. He was a little touched by Gentle Snow's response. Very few could hold themselves back when faced with the temptation of reality, not to mention the conditions 1,000 Miles had offered. As for fire dance and alluring summer, they simply smiled at 1,000 Miles. Although they had a word or two for the man, in the end, they chose to turn and leave. Miracle might be an insurmountable existence to Zero Wing right now, but the same could not be said for the future. They believed that it wouldn't be long before Sherfong transformed Zero Wing into an existence that even surpassed Miracle. What a fool! She is simply impervious to reason. Wrathful flames burned in 1,000 Miles' eyes as he glared at Gentle Snow's departing figure. Just you wait. It won't be long before you beg to join Miracle. The struggle for dominance in God's domain was only beginning. Mainstream players were beginning to obtain mounts, and various groups were beginning to occupy NPC towns. It was only a matter of time before conflict broke out between countries. Moreover, various industrial titans had begun to set their sights on the game, investing large sums. Soon, the competition between guilds would intensify. There was a saying that destruction pursued the great. In such a competitive environment, it would not be surprising for today's overlord to vanish from the game tomorrow. At the end of the day, only superpowers like Miracle would continue to stand tall. Following which, 1,000 Miles led his subordinates out of the arena and headed for the Dark Arena's auction venue. Meanwhile, inside a VIP room upstairs, the Midnight Tea Party's members had watched every second of the competition. What an interesting guild! Endless Scars' cherry-red lips formed a joyful smile as she looked at the Asura battle team members. Due to this incident, Endless Scars' interest in the guild known as Zero Wing had grown. Her opinion was the opposite of those who were shocked and confused. The fact that an upstart guild could keep a former guild leader of a first-rate guild from leaving showed that this upstart guild held something even more attractive than what a super first-rate guild could offer. There was no other reason that someone, who had once led their own guild, would dismiss a rare opportunity to display their abilities on a larger stage, preferring the small state that no one paid much attention to. After the competition had ended, Sherfong headed towards the Dark Arena's exchange counter. Before the competition had begun, he had brought all of the guild's resources with him. Afterward, he had deliberately agreed to Miracle Dragon's challenge to push the Dark Arena's host to increase the competition's payout rate. And indeed, just as he had expected, the host had eventually offered a payout rate of 1-9 for a complete victory. After that, he had bet everything he could afford to lose on the Asura battle team. Here's my ticket. I would like to redeem my resources. Sherfong smiled as he handed over the ticket the Dark Arena's host had issued him to the female player manning the counter. He had bet 300-plus pieces of level 40 dark gold equipment, 800-plus pieces of level 40 fine gold equipment, as well as plenty of high-tiered magic scrolls and rare materials. The total value of his bet easily exceeded 90,000 gold. Sir, this? The woman manning the counter nearly jumped in shock when she saw Sherfeng's ticket. Chapter 1168 Dark Auction. Chapter 1168 Dark Auction. Hellscythe _ Fluffy Goblin. Chapter 1168 Dark Auction. Is there a problem? Sherfong asked the female receptionist. No, the amount is just a little too high for me to handle. I'll have to ask my superiors before I can transfer the resources, the receptionist said, smiling bitterly. The amount of resources recorded on the ticket Sherfong produced was frightening. There were usually many bets placed in the Dark Arena, and it was not uncommon to see players gamble several hundred or even over 1,000 weapons, equipment, rare materials, and tools. However, Sherfeng's wager was completely outside of the norm. Just the level 40 dark gold equipment he had bet numbered more than 300. Various large guilds' mainstream equipment was still level 35. Level 40 weapons and equipment were still rare, much less level 40 dark gold weapons and equipment. Normally, guilds let their experts use these items. Very few guilds would be willing to gamble these items. In this competition, Although there were quite a few first-rate guilds that had level 40 dark gold equipment, they had only bet around 20 to 30 pieces at most. Even then, it was considered an extravagance. Overall, the majority of the guild's wagers were level 35 weapons and equipment, tools, and rare materials. Most importantly, Shifeng had bet on the Asura battle team's complete victory. The Dark Arena had to compensate him with 9 times the resources he had bet. According to the Dark Arena's rules, players would get priority over resources of the same rank when claiming their winnings. In other words, if a player had bet level 40 dark gold equipment, once the competition was over and said player collected their winnings, the Dark Arena would give that player the level 40 dark gold equipment that had been wagered on the losing team. Only when the Dark Arena was out of level 40 dark gold equipment would it compensate the player with items of a lower rank. Meanwhile, this competition was unusual. Rather than relying on the system, the Dark Arena's host was the bookkeeper. As a result, the bets did not follow the natural payout rates, which resulted in an unbalanced payout ratio. If the bets on the losing battle team were not enough to cover the bets placed on the winning battle team, the host would have to cover the rest. Shifeng had bet over 300 level 40 dark gold weapons and pieces of equipment. In other words, the Dark Arena had to pay him over 2,700 level 40 dark gold equipment. Shifeng was also going to redeem over 7,000 level 40 fine gold weapons and equipment. He was definitely going to wring the host dry. With so many weapons and equipment, one could easily arm a legion of 1,000 level 40 experts, and have plenty to spare. Even the Dark Arena's host couldn't collect so many items within a short time. As the Dark Arena, there was a minimum requirement of the quality of the items wagered. For example, level 35 secret silver equipment would not be accepted. The bare minimum was level 35 fine gold weapons or equipment. The same was true for rare materials and tools. Although many had bet on the Evil Dragon battle team, there were still a few players who had bet on the Asura battle team's complete victory. In fact, one person had even gambled an epic item. After considering all of the bets, the remaining resources would not be enough to pay off Shifeng's claim. After a moment, the receptionist finally received feedback from her superiors. Turning to Shifeng, the receptionist awkwardly reported, "Sir, as your wager was somewhat large, so we aren't able to transfer all of the required resources within a short period. Aside from resources of the same rank, may I know if you are willing to accept a portion of the payment in coins or magic crystals?" "That's fine. I'll take payment in both coins and magic crystals." Shifeng nodded. He was not particularly surprised by this outcome. The host had set the payout rates too high. Even if a lot of people had gambled on the Evil Dragon battle team winning, there were bound to be a few who tested their luck. It was only natural that the host was in a predicament. After all, it was not that easy to procure top-tier resources. Even super guilds were not immune to the difficulty. In fact, the only reason he had so many items lying around was thanks to Pantheon, Blackwater, and Heaven's Burial. If he had not trapped and killed so many of their expert and elite players, he wouldn't have been able to collect so many items either. After all, when he placed items of such rank in the guild warehouse, guild members traded in their GCPs very quickly. Unless, of course, the host was willing to let their own guild experts go naked. Obviously, this was impossible. Afterward, Shifeng had Fire Dance and the others transport his winnings. In total, Shifeng had won tens of thousands of weapons, equipment, tools, and rare materials. Even his own bag space couldn't hold that many items. "Guild leader, did you just rob the Dark Arena's warehouse?" Fire Dance was breathless as she looked weapons and equipment in her bag. If it were simply common weapons and equipment, she wouldn't have said anything. Even the most inferior item was a piece of level 35 fine gold equipment. "Our harvest is even greater than when we annihilated the Blackwater army. With this, our guild won't have to worry about weapons and equipment for some time." Gentle Snow's eyes shone as she looked at Shifeng's winnings. "With these weapons and equipment, our guild can start expanding again." Weapons and equipment were a guild's foundation. To develop a guild, one first needed to develop the guild's weapon and equipment supply. Currently, guilds' main sources for weapons and equipment were powerful field bosses and large-scale team dungeons. This was also why the various large guilds needed experts. Without experts taking the lead, it would be very difficult for elite and ordinary players to kill powerful monsters or raid difficult team dungeons. However, what Gentle Snow did not know was that their harvest from the Dark Arena not only helped prepare Zero Wing for its next expansion, but it also covered their construction fees for upgrading Stone Forest Town to intermediate rank. Next, Sherfoam simply needed to pay the construction fees and NPCs would begin rebuilding Stone Forest Town according to the Grandmaster Town design. Transport these items back to the guild for now. I'll go and participate in the auction. When Sherfoam glanced at the time, he noticed there were less than 10 minutes before the dark auction began. It would be a huge loss to miss out. Moreover, Sherfoam had just obtained 420,000 magic crystals and 50,000 gold coins from the host. He had practically emptied the host's pockets. Following which, Sherfoam hurried to the auction venue. The dark auction was known as one of the largest auctions in God's domain. There were always a plethora of items up for auction, and every one of them was of excellent quality. Even fragmented legendary items had been for sale in the past. Although many large guilds wanted to participate, it was extremely difficult to do so. The minimum requirement to attend the dark auction had been the same to enter the dark arena in the past. Moreover, each invitation was limited to one person. One could not bring guests. Of course, these rules hadn't been implemented yet. Any player that had received an invitation to the dark arena could take part. As soon as Sherfoam reached the underground arena's top floor, he noticed a sea of people. There were more than double the number of players who had watched the competition. Upper echelons from super guilds and super first-rate guilds that had not been in the audience had arrived here. As Sherfoam searched a place to sit, a familiar voice came from behind him. Yefoam? When Sherfoam heard this voice, he could not help but turn towards its source. Immediately, he noticed Autumn Goose. She had already risen to level 41 and wore silver armor trimmed in red. Standing beside Autumn Goose was the Wind God's Spear's commander, Fallen Wind. The man had already reached level 42. His level was quite eye-catching as he stood among the crowd. A glamorous beauty stood next to these two. The woman wore deep red leather armor and had a tattered and broken sword hanging from her waist. Although she had hidden her level with her black cloak, one could easily tell she was a first-class assassin based on her sharp aura. Moreover, Sherfoam was very familiar with this beauty's face. Almost every superpower in God's domain knew the woman's nickname. She was Arrogance, one of the Flower of Seven Sins. Chapter 1169 Legacy Item. Chapter 1169 Legacy Item. Hellscythe _Fluffy Goblin. Chapter 1169 Legacy Item. They actually know each other? Sherfoam was a little surprised to see these three walking together. He had never imagined that the Wind God's Spear would have a connection with the Flower of Seven Sins. The Flower of Seven Sins was an organization that not even super guilds dared to provoke. Meanwhile, within the organization, the most famous players were none other than the Seven Sins. The peerless beauty standing before him wielded the title Arrogance, Hidden Soul. In the past, the Flower of Seven Sins had been hired to assassinate a super guild's guild leader. Eventually, the organization completed the task. Meanwhile, Hidden Soul was among those who took part in the assassination. A super guild's guild leader was extraordinarily strong. Otherwise, they wouldn't have risen to that position in the first place. In addition, a large group of peak experts usually followed these guild leaders, making assassinations nearly impossible, yet the Flower of Seven Sins had succeeded. Due to that incident, Hidden Soul's fame had skyrocketed. That incident had shocked the entire virtual gaming world. Noticing Autumn Goose's excitement, Hidden Soul glanced at Sherfoam before asking softly, "Autumn, is he an acquaintance?" At this moment, Sherfoam wore a black cloak, so she couldn't check his level. However, the fact that the man had been allowed into the dark auction house proved his status. Yifeng is the expert we told you about before. If not for his help, our wind god's spear would have suffered tremendously. Autumn Goose nodded. That's right. If not for Brother Yifeng lending a hand, we would have been trapped inside the trial of God, Fallen Wind said. So, this is the guy you were talking about. Hidden Soul could not help but study Shifeng more carefully. While Hidden Soul quietly observed Shifeng, Fallen Wind and Autumn Goose approached him to say hello. Brother Yifeng, long time no see. Smiling, Fallen Wind continued. I never thought that you'd be here to participate in the auction as well. Why don't you join us? He had personally witnessed Shifeng's strength, and he admired the man. It was also thanks to Shifeng that he had improved his combat standards. If possible, he really wanted to spar with Shifeng in the future. That's right. We came here with Big Sister Soul this time. Big Sister Soul's invitation card allowed us to use a room on the second floor. You get to know what items are up for auction in those rooms. This way, you'll have an easier time bidding on what you want, Autumn Goose added. Originally, Shifeng had wondered why Fallen Wind and Autumn Goose had been surprised to see him. Logically, they should have seen him in the arena. However, he understood after hearing the players' comments. Not many people were particularly interested in the Dark Arena's competitions. After all, the various superpowers would never reveal their true strength here. However, it was a different story for the Dark Auction. Hence, it wasn't unusual for others to be unaware of his situation. Moreover, Hidden Soul had brought Fallen Wind and Autumn Goose as her guests. It was even less likely for them to know about the Asura battle team. Seeing as both Fallen Wind and Autumn Goose had passionately invited him to join them, Shifeng agreed after considering the matter. Not just anyone could enter the second-floor rooms. Only superpowers had this privilege. Meanwhile, as Autumn Goose had said, the second-floor rooms provided a preview of the items that were up for auction. With this insight, one could organize their funds and plan the items they wanted to buy. It was an advantage of status and position. For people from first-rate guilds or below, they could only wait for the items reveal patiently. While Shifeng chatted with Fallen Wind as they walked upstairs, Hidden Soul pulled Autumn Goose to a side and asked softly, Little Autumn, did you say that Rain refused to leave her guild because of him? I'm not sure. I only know that Yifeng has quested with Rain several times. After that, no matter how much I tried to persuade her, she wouldn't leave Zero Wing. However, Zero Wing is impressive. Now that I think about it, even I envy her a little, Autumn Goose said, shaking her head. So, that's how it is. Hearing Autumn Goose's words, Hidden Soul shot Shifeng a frosty look. It seems that I'll have to find an opportunity to get to know him properly. The Dark Auction House's second-floor rooms were quite spacious. Each one was roughly the size of a basketball court. Aside from the staff member stationed within, there was a table lined with precious alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages. Any bottle on display could easily sell for 50 or 60 silver coins, with some worth over 3 gold. The fact that the Dark Arena's host offered the guests as many of these beverages as they wanted showed just how wealthy they were. Fallen Wind gulped when he saw the alcohol. Even he couldn't afford to indulge in alcohol worth 3 gold per bottle. Normally, he considered wine worth several dozen silver extravagant enough. After Shifeng and the others took their seats, the staff member handed each of them a list of the auctioned items. Dear guests, our auction will be split into 2 segments. We will host the first segment, and all of the items for sale have been recorded on that list. The second segment will be a trading session. If you have any items you wish to put up for trade, our auction house will represent you. However, to assure the product's quality, we will charge a processing fee of 40 magic crystals or 10 gold coins for each item. In the case of raw materials, we will charge 60 magic crystals of 15 gold coins per stack. After everyone received the list, the staff member explained the Dark Auction's general process. Fallen Wind and Autumn Goose frowned when they heard the explanation. This is simply too fraudulent, Autumn Goose whispered. Just getting the auction house to help promote their items cost a minimum of 40 magic crystals or 10 gold coins. There wasn't even a guarantee that their trade would be successful. This was practically daylight robbery. Even expert players had to grind for a long time to collect 10 gold coins. Otherwise, they wouldn't worry about affording a mount. Fallen Wind and Autumn Goose finally understood why the host offered so many expensive beverages in these second-floor rooms. It felt as if they had already paid for the drinks. In the auction, the crowd was more interested in the trading session than the organizer's items. After all, there were many priceless treasures in God's domain. Those present generally had little need for coins and magic crystals. They were more willing to spend these currencies to purchase items that weren't available on the market. Hidden Soul simply smiled at Autumn Goose's reaction. Anyone capable of receiving a second-floor room invitation had an extraordinary status or position. To people like them, 40 magic crystals and 10 gold coins were nothing more than spare change. Moreover, the requirement's purpose was to ensure the quality of players' items. If the item were not of particular value, it wouldn't be worthwhile to invest 10 gold to trade it. Everyone here was wealthy. They naturally would not waste their time checking out worthless items. After the staff member finished his explanation, 3 people approached the auction hall's center. Among them, 2 were tall, beautiful ordinary female players. These women were specifically tasked to display the auctioned items. The last person was a middle-aged man. He was obviously the auctioneer. When these 3 people took center stage, the venue fell silent. These players had fallen silent because the first auction item was simply too frightening. It was a legacy item that allowed one to class change into a hidden class. Chapter 1170 Difference in Wealth. Chapter 1170 Difference in Wealth. Hellscythe_Vampire Cat. Chapter 1170 Difference in Wealth. It's really a legacy item. The host is simply too amazing. They're actually auctioning such an item as well. What wealth! The auction hall was suddenly in an uproar. Even the people in the second-floor rooms could not help but pay attention to the item that was brought out. Although they had long since known that a legacy item was going to be put up for auction, the information they had regarding the item was very vague. As a result, they could only wait for the auction house to officially announce the specifics of the legacy item. Hidden classes were no longer a secret in God's domain. However, obtaining one was still extremely difficult, even more difficult than getting an epic item. Moreover, unlike epic items, where there would eventually come a time when they would be discarded, hidden classes could accompany players throughout their entire gaming career in God's domain. Currently, any guild that obtained a clue or item leading to a hidden class would not even think of selling it. Meanwhile, seeing as the first item revealed in the dark auction was already so impressive, it was certain that the subsequent items would be of roughly similar quality. I believe everyone has already seen this item for themselves. As for the item's exact information, pardon us for not publicizing it. Consider this a security measure for the buyer. However, I can still share the basic details of this item with everyone. This is a Magic Knight's Legacy Shield. According to the legacy ranks, it is considered an advanced legacy. However, it is a defense-type hidden class. I believe everyone should know full well that its value is no less than that of peak legacies. As this item is very special, the seller of this item is accepting only magic crystals. The starting bid is set at 20,000 crystals, and each increment should be no less than 1,000 crystals. Let us begin! The instant the auctioneer finished speaking, a furor broke out in the entire auction hall. The starting bid was simply too high. Everyone could not help but be shocked by it. The dark auction accepted payment in both magic crystals and coins. However, compared to magic crystals, the various large guilds preferred to pay using coins, as magic crystals were truly difficult to obtain. Unlike coins, the sources of magic crystals were only dungeon bosses or monsters in certain regional dungeons. There were no other reliable methods of obtaining magic crystals. The only bright side was that the various large guilds had always been saving up on magic crystals for unexpected situations. Meanwhile, in order to successfully purchase the items they were aiming for, they had naturally brought their entire stockpile just in case. Nevertheless, just the starting bid was already 20,000 magic crystals, a price very few guilds could afford. Even first-rate guilds shuddered at this figure. However, The hidden class in question right now was a defensive-type hidden class. The various large guilds and famous adventurer teams still had to give it a try, even if they knew the price was ridiculously high. After all, an MT was the core of a team. A team with a powerful MT would have their overall strength elevated to a whole new level. 22,000 crystals! 24,000 crystals! 26,000 crystals! Immediately, people all over the auction hall began shouting out bids one after another. In the blink of an eye, the price of the legacy shield shot past 30,000 magic crystals. If converted to coins, that would be equivalent to 7,500 gold, a considerable amount even for first-rate guilds. Moreover, even if one had 7,500 gold, they would not be able to purchase 30,000 magic crystals. Magic Knight? Sherfone was somewhat astonished as he looked at the massive, tattered shield displayed on the stage. He had never thought that the Dark Auction House would be capable of obtaining the legacy for the Magic Knight class. The Magic Knight class had been a very famous hidden class in the past. It significantly strengthened not only an MT's attack capabilities but also their defensive capabilities. Most importantly, MTs that class changed to the Magic Knight class received a massive boost to their magic resistance. The class was an extremely rare hidden class. If he could have one of the guild's MTs become a Magic Knight, he would have a much easier time raiding the level 50 regional dungeon Tower of Time in the future. In the past, the Tower of Time was a place contested by all nearby kingdoms and empires. Not only did the Tower of Time produce magic crystals, but most importantly, it also produced 7 luminaries crystals. The mind-space system had been activated a lot later in the past. Hence, by the time it was activated, mainstream players had long since exceeded the level limit of entering the Tower of Time. Even then, the battle for the dungeon had never once stopped. With the mind-space system having been activated this soon, Sherfone could imagine how intense the competition over the Tower of Time would be. Meanwhile, practically all of the monsters inside the dungeon dealt high magic damage. Needless to say, the bosses inside were the same. Without sufficient magic resistance, entering the dungeon would simply be suicide. Currently, the main forces of the various guilds in God's domain were only a short distance from reaching level 50. Hence, Sherfone needed to make some preparations in anticipation. Before Sherfone could even place a bid of his own, he suddenly heard Hidden Soul bidding. 50,000 crystals! Immediately, the entire auction hall fell silent, everyone turning to look at the room Hidden Soul was in. If not for the second-floor rooms concealing the occupants' identities, most likely, the gazes from the first floor might have killed Hidden Soul several times already. Meanwhile, Autumn Goose and Fallen Wind, who sat beside Hidden Soul, were looking at their companion in shock. They never imagined that Hidden Soul could take out so many magic crystals. The Wind God's Spear could be considered an extremely famous adventurer team in the Dark Knight Empire. However, even they would be hard-pressed to gather up 10,000 magic crystals at a moment's notice. Yet, Hidden Soul, who did not belong to any guild, had actually placed a bid of 50,000 magic crystals. Moreover, players could not call out a bid if they did not possess the corresponding items. After the first floor hall fell into a momentary silence, many people promptly gave up on the legacy shield. Although they wished to obtain it, they simply did not have the ability to do so. 51,000 crystals! 52,000 crystals! 53,000 crystals! Suddenly, the number of first-rate guild upper echelons calling out bids on the first floor decreased drastically. At this moment, any guild on the first floor capable of bidding was using practically every magic crystal the guild possessed, prepared to break the bank in order to get the legacy shield. As a result, the price of the legacy shield continued increasing by the thousands. 70,000 crystals! This was the bid of 1,000 Miles, who likewise was in a second-floor room. This price immediately silenced the first-rate guild upper echelons on the first floor, who were still considering bidding. That was 70,000 magic crystals they were talking about. Converted to coins, that would be 17,500 gold. With that kind of money, they could even purchase a good plot of land in the imperial capital of an empire. 80,000 crystals! At this time, a new bid came from another room. This time, the bid increased directly by 10,000 magic crystals. This situation stupefied the players on the first floor. Just taking out 50,000 magic crystals had already sunk the various first-rate guilds present into a financial crisis. Yet, from the behavior of those in the second-floor rooms, they were just getting started. The disparity in the economic strength of both sides was like the difference between heaven and earth. Pavilion Master, if we spend 80,000 magic crystals to buy this legacy, it'll be somewhat risky when the bidding for those two items begin, Martial Dragon reminded. In their trip to the Dark Arena this time, watching the competition was only secondary. Their true objective was two of the Dark Auction's finale items. It doesn't matter. Even if we really tried to compete, it is impossible for us to get both of those items. Rather than end up getting nothing at all, it is much better if we secure this Magic Knight legacy first. Later on, we can simply settle for competing for just one of those items, Nine Dragons Emperor replied calmly. Before the revelation that the legacy item was for the Magic Knight class, he indeed had not been interested in it. However, a defensive-type hidden class would be of significant help to him on Thunder Island. Moreover, if he had one of the guild's guardian knights start the class change process immediately after he returned, they could still make it to the contest in time. However, as soon as Nine Dragons Emperor placed his bid, a new one appeared in the hall. 100,000 crystals! This was a price that made even the players in the various rooms on the second floor wince. Just what kind of background do those people in that room possess? Could they have lost their minds? At that price, one can even buy a fragmented legendary item. Everyone could not help but turn to look at the room that placed this bid. Big Sis Soul? Autumn Goose felt as if this was her first time meeting Hidden Soul. The price of 100,000 magic crystals also gave the players in the second floor rooms pause. They all felt that this price exceeded their initial expectations. 100,000 crystals going once! 100,000 crystals going twice! Just as the gavel was about to land for the third time, a new bid appeared in the auction hall. 120,000 crystals! Chapter 1171 Solomon's Fragment. Chapter 1171 Solomon's Fragment. Hellscythe_Vampire Cat. Chapter 1171 Solomon's Fragment. The words, 120,000 crystals, echoing throughout the quiet auction hall caused a sudden commotion. Just who is it that's so rich? You can buy several epic items at that price. This is crazy. 120,000 crystals. That is already double our guild's stockpile. Everyone present was shocked by the price of the Magic Knight legacy. Meanwhile, 1,000 Miles, who had placed the bid, sent an anxious glance at Hidden Soul's room. Now that I've raised it by 20,000, I refuse to believe you will dare to compete with me. Initially, 1,000 Miles expected to get the legacy for only 90,000 magic crystals. Afterwards, he would still have a goodly amount of crystals to compete for the finale items. Now, however, his plans were disrupted. In order to guarantee his purchase of the legacy, he had no choice but to raise the price by 20,000 crystals to scare off any possible competitors. However, after a moment of silence, Hidden Soul called out a new bid once again. 130,000 crystals! She did not have even a shred of hesitation when calling out this bid. Sure enough, the Flower of Seven Sins really is wealthy. Sherphone was astounded as he looked at the calm woman sitting close to him. Unlike super guilds, the Flower of Seven Sins did not have countless players collecting magic crystals for them. When it came to magic crystal gathering speed, the organization should be no match for super guilds at all. Nevertheless, Hidden Soul still managed to take out 130,000 magic crystals with ease. One could tell just how powerful the assassin organization was. 135,000 crystals! 1,000 Miles bellowed. This price was already nearing his acceptable limit. 140,000 crystals! Hidden Soul simply smiled as she placed an even higher bid. This price already deterred everyone else in the auction hall from competing for the legacy shield. Damn it! Just who is trying to compete with me? Thousand Miles was burning with rage right now. The Magic Knight class was a hidden class perfectly suited to him. Yet, judging by the opponent's reactions, they still possessed plenty of funds to spare. The other party also seemed adamant in obtaining the Magic Knight legacy no matter what. Since you wish to compete against me, I want to see just what kind of ability you have. 160,000 crystals. The instant he placed this bid, even the players occupying the second-floor rooms were taken aback. Even super guilds would need a long time to accumulate that many magic crystals. Yet, now, all these resources were being spent on just an advanced legacy. Instead of doing so, getting oneself an entire set of epic equipment would be much better. The improvements such a set could bring would definitely be much more than what the Magic Knight class could. Only when the auctioneer slammed his gavel for the first time did everyone wake up from their daze. As expected from the dark auction, Hidden Soul could not help but shake her head helplessly, a smile appearing on her face as she turned to look at Thousand Miles's room. However, this is also a good outcome. At the very least, I'll have one less competitor later on. Now that the Legacy Shield's price had already reached this point, even she could no longer compete for it. The reason was not a lack of magic crystals. She had come here this time for 2 items, one of which was the Magic Knight legacy that the Flower of Seven Sins had found out about in secret. However, the other item had a higher priority. If she bought the Magic Knight legacy now, she definitely would not be able to obtain the other item. When the auctioneer's gavel descended for the second time, the entire auction hall was still silent. Seeing this situation, Thousand Miles involuntarily breathed out a sigh of relief. He had permission to use only 140,000 of the magic crystals the guild had prepared for this auction for himself. He had cleared out his own stockpile to cover the excess amount, and had even borrowed a lot from Alice. If someone called out a higher bid now, he really would have no choice but to give up on the legacy. Fortunately, however, he was finally able to achieve his goal by spending 160,000 magic crystals. 165,000! Just as the auctioneer's gavel was about to land for the 3rd time, a new bid rang out again. Immediately, everyone turned to look at Hidden Soul's room. Damn it! Didn't he already give up? A cold glint flashed in Thousand Miles's eyes. Meanwhile, inside Hidden Soul's room, Fallen Wind and Autumn Goose were staring at Chiffon with dumbfounded expressions. Why does he have so many magic crystals? A bewildered Hidden Soul also stared at the calm swordsman. She simply could not believe this situation was true. If a superpower had offered that many magic crystals for the Magic Knight legacy, she would, at most, feel a little frustrated at her loss. However, Chiffon didn't belong to any superpower. Yet he still managed to come up with this many magic crystals, hence her extreme shock. After all, a first-rate guild stockpile of magic crystals did not even amount to half of this price. Meanwhile, Autumn Goose and Fallen Wind were similarly shocked. Zero Wing was simply too wealthy. Just as everyone thought that the price of the Magic Knight legacy would continue increasing, contrary to expectations, Thousand Miles fell silent. Although the price had increased by just an additional 5,000 magic crystals, this was an amount he could not come up with no matter what right now, unless he utilized the guild's prepared magic crystals. However, this was obviously not a viable option. Hence, he had no choice but to watch the auctioneer knock his gavel again and again. Let us congratulate the guest in room 017 for obtaining the Magic Knight legacy. At this moment, the auctioneer was thrilled. This was only the first auction item, yet it already sold at such a good price. The rest of the auction would no doubt be even livelier. Meanwhile, Chiffon also gritted his teeth as he paid 165,000 magic crystals to the auction house. If not for the 7 luminaries crystals in the Tower of Time, he wouldn't spend 165,000 magic crystals for the Magic Knight legacy no matter what. Following which, auction items sold one after another. However, rarely any of the subsequent items managed to attract the attention of the players in the second-floor rooms. Those who contested for these items were mainly players in the first-floor hall. The prices of these items were naturally no match for the Magic Knight legacy. However, they still sold for at least 200 gold. There was even another hidden class, however, it was only a basic legacy. Eventually, the first-rate guild Silver Knights purchased it for 18,000 magic crystals. Aside from that, a complete level 40 dark gold set equipment also went up for auction. The various superpowers of God's domain considered level 40 set equipment among the best equipment currently available. When the set equipment appeared, it immediately set off another bidding war in the auction hall. Eventually, Nine Dragons Emperor bought the 8-piece Wild Claws set equipment for 4,450 gold. At this price, one could already purchase an epic item. As the auction proceeded, the finale items of the day were finally ushered into the auction hall. There were 4 finale items in total, every one of them posing a great temptation for Shifeng. One was an ancient book, one was an epic weapon, one was an epic tool, and the last one was a secret technique tablet. When Shifeng had seen the list of items for auction, he nearly had jumped up in fright. He could not help but admit that the dark auction house was really powerful. Every one of these items could only be encountered by luck. Epic weapons were much more valuable than epic equipment. After all, weapons were things that could significantly improve a player's damage output. Meanwhile, epic tools were even rarer than epic weapons. Moreover, they would not occupy a player's equipment slots. Even an epic tool of average attributes would be far more valuable than an epic weapon. All 4 of the finale items were simply things that usually could not be bought even if one had the money to do so. This was especially true for the secret technique tablet. This was something highly sought after by all the various superpowers. As long as a guild had a secret technique tablet, they would be able to allow their experts to learn better and more powerful combat techniques. Although Shifeng wanted to have his guild members enter the secret technique tablet he possessed, unfortunately, grasping how to produce intermediate magic arrays was simply too difficult. Currently, aside from himself, only 2 other people had managed to do so. One of them was Violet Cloud, and the other was Alluring Summer. Sending only 3 people to use the secret technique tablet would be a tremendous waste. Hence, Shifeng had never bothered using it all this time. If not for the host trying to increase the dark auction's fame, they definitely wouldn't sell such a precious item. Ladies and gentlemen, the next item up for bids will be the first finale item of today's auction. Without further ado, let me present to you the one-handed sword Netherworld Brilliance. Saying so, the auctioneer publicized Netherworld Brilliance's information. Everyone's eyes glowed when they saw the weapon's attributes, drool nearly flowing from their mouths. As for Shifeng, he grew even more shocked after reading the weapon's introduction. Solomon's Fragment. Chapter 1172 Sword of Death. Chapter 1172 Sword of Death. Hellscythe_Vampire Cat. Chapter 1172 Sword of Death. The host is simply too generous. They're actually willing to sell even a famed sword. This weapon's attributes are much stronger than those of ordinary epic weapons. This is definitely the most amazing one-handed sword I've seen. Everyone gasped when they saw the attributes of Netherworld Brilliance. Players that used one-handed swords could not help but wish they could grab the weapon and give it a few swings right this instant. They really are going all out this time. There are only a total of 36 famed swords in God's domain. They are all unique epic weapons. Every one of them is a weapon that countless swordsman experts dream of obtaining. Yuan Tiexin, who was seated inside a second-floor room, was slightly astonished when he saw Netherworld Brilliance. Practically everyone in the second-floor rooms came from one of God's domain's superpowers. To them, epic weapons were indeed rare but not entirely out of their reach. Getting one of their own was only a matter of time. However, famed swords were a different story. These were weapons adored by sword-wielding experts. If utilized properly, one could draw in those sword fanatics who were normally very difficult to recruit. Among the 8 swordmeisters on the God's Domain experts list, 3 were independent players. If the secret pavilion used a famed sword as bait, recruiting one of them might really be possible. Netherworld Brilliance, one-handed sword, epic rank. Level 40, level 110, level 40. Equipment requirement, strength 700, agility 400. Attack power plus 1340. Strength plus 101, agility plus 72, endurance plus 60. Attack speed plus 15. When attacking, 20% chance to trigger heavy crash, increasing strength by 30% and attack speed by 20%. 20% chance to trigger blur, making the attack impossible to be parried or blocked. 30% chance to trigger double critical. When equipped, strength increased by 10%. Agility increased by 5%. All sword-related skills plus 3 levels. Ignore levels plus 15. All sword-related skill completion rates increased by 2%. Additional passive skill 1 dash. Death Devour. Any creature that dies within 200 yards will provide wielder with a Death Devour buff, increasing wielder's attack speed by 1% and all sword-related skill completion rates by 0.1% for 30 seconds. Buff can be stacked up to 30 times. Additional passive skill 2 dash. Death's Phantom. Wielder's physique improves as HP decreases. Physique can improve up to a maximum of 20%. A sword of death created by famed smith Jax using a piece of mysterious sword fragment. Netherworld Brilliance is one of the 36 famed swords of God's domain, ranking 30th. Anyone that wields this sword will be enveloped in an aura of death, decreasing all their attributes by 20% and doubling the death penalty they suffer. Can be evolved. Cannot be destroyed. However, when everyone was finally done reading through the weapon's introduction, they all shook their heads and sighed. Netherworld Brilliance was indeed an amazing weapon. This was especially true for the increase to sword-related skill completion rates. Although it was only a meager 2%, boosting an 88% completion rate to 90% would allow a skill to undergo a qualitative transformation. Unfortunately, not only did the weapon decrease its wielder's basic attributes by 20%, but it also doubled the death penalty they would suffer, which was something most people wanted to avoid. Leveling up was extremely difficult in God's domain. Although Netherworld Brilliance would boost one's combat power significantly, nobody could say with certainty that they would not die. If one would originally lose 1 level when they died out in the fields, then they would lose 2 levels if they were wielding Netherworld Brilliance. Moreover, practically everyone present frequently raided large-scale team dungeons. Dying in such dungeons was common. Normally, they would only lose 10% of their EXP when dying in dungeons. If this penalty doubled to 20%, just thinking about it gave everyone chills. At this moment, everyone finally understood the auction host's generosity in putting a famed sword up for auction. Most likely, nobody in the host's guild wanted to be anywhere near the weapon at all. Hence, rather than let it sit in a warehouse and collect dust, the guild opted to exchange it for resources. Noticing the audience's lack of interest, the auctioneer chuckled and said, "Now that everyone has seen the weapon, I believe you all know the flaws of Netherworld Brilliance. However, at the end of the day, this is still an epic weapon. Moreover, this weapon can be evolved. If you manage to discover the method of evolution, this sword could become a godly weapon in the future. It might even become a fragmented legendary weapon. The starting price for this weapon is 8,000 gold. Each increment must not be lower than 200 gold." Hearing the starting price of the weapon, everyone inwardly cursed the auction house for being fraudulent. If not for the famed sword's flaws, not to mention 8,000 gold, even spending 18,000 gold to obtain it wouldn't be a problem. After all, it was an epic weapon that could be used all the way to level 110. In addition, there was the possibility of evolving it. Alright then. I'll get it as a collection item. I bid 8,000 gold. I can attract quite a number of people if I put it on display in my guild. I'll bid 8,200 gold. 8,400 gold. The audience in the auction hall was not particularly active in bidding for Netherworld Brilliance. After a dozen or so bids, the price eventually stopped at 11,000 gold. Shifeng's heart began beating madly as he looked at the weapon displayed on the stage. To others, this weapon would indeed be of little value. To him, however, it was a priceless treasure. Solomon's sword had been broken into 5 fragments. Among them, 3 were in locations that current players could not reach. Meanwhile, of the 2 remaining, Shifeng had already obtained one of them, the Sacred Sword Killing Ray. The last fragment was none other than this netherworld brilliance. Originally, Shifeng had planned on thinking of a way to obtain netherworld brilliance. However, he never imagined that the Dark Arena's host had actually gotten it already. Moreover, they even put it up for auction. This was one of the 10 great legendary weapons they were talking about. As long as he could gather all 5 fragments, he could reproduce the God Sword of the past once again. Just thinking about it excited Shifeng. 12,000 gold! Shifeng raised the price slightly. Obviously, no one was that interested in netherworld brilliance. However, as it was a famed sword and also had the potential to evolve, there were still some people who were willing to bet on that possibility. Hence, he would not raise the price by too much. If he suddenly raised it too high, people would no doubt become suspicious. Thus, when calling out his bid, he could not offer too high or too low. What rich people! I don't want it anymore. Amazing. Someone's actually betting 12,000 gold on luck. Just as the other bidders were giving up one after another, a voice suddenly resounded throughout the entire hall. 13,000 gold! Meanwhile, the person who had placed this bid was none other than 1,000 Miles. You stole my legacy away. Do you think I'll let you get that weapon so easily? 1,000 Miles sneered as he looked at the room Shifeng occupied. Although 1,000 Miles did not know who was occupying the room, he could easily tell which room had placed the 12,000 gold bid. After noticing Shifeng's interest in netherworld brilliance, he naturally could not allow him to have an easy time. The person in that room is really vengeful. Autumn Goose growled as she looked at 1,000 Miles' room. Brother Yifeng, if you don't have enough money, just say the word. I can lend you all the money I have. Fallen Wind also grew indignant at 1,000 Miles' behavior. Thanks. I'll definitely borrow from you if I need to, Shifeng said. He then proceeded to place a new bid. 20,000 gold. This is madness. Even if that person is angry, there's no need to waste so much money, right? The rich are really willful. The new bid Shifeng made stupefied everyone. Everyone present was someone of high status and position. However, none of them would treat their money as lightly as Shifeng did, raising the bid by an additional 7,000 gold just to let off some steam. One could already buy another epic weapon with that kind of money. Wow! How rich! Alright then. I'll let you have it. 1,000 Miles laughed over this situation. However, he no longer dared to continue bidding as this might be a trap for him. He was already satisfied with getting Shifeng to waste an additional 8,000 gold. Following which, the auctioneer knocked his gavel 3 times. Let us congratulate the guest from room 017 for obtaining the famed sword Netherworld Brilliance. At this moment, the auctioneer was close to laughing out loud in joy already. Originally, he thought that getting to sell the famed sword for 12,000 gold was already plenty good. Now, he had actually sold it for 20,000 gold. On the other hand, after Shifeng paid the 20,000 gold and obtained Netherworld Brilliance, he too was inwardly jumping for joy. He couldn't care less about what others thought of him. He had just spent 20,000 gold to purchase one of the 5 fragments of Solomon's sword, one of the 10 great legendary weapons. This was an unimaginably low price. If the Dark Arena's host knew what they had just done, they would surely faint from shock. In the past, every fragment of legendary items put up for auction, regardless of whether they were usable or not, had readily sold for at least 50,000 gold, not to mention the fragment of one of the 10 great legendary weapons. The epic tool subsequently auctioned was roughly the same as Netherworld Brilliance in that it was somewhat useless. However, it could still be used to brew magic wine, which provided effects similar to the high-density mana environment in Stone Forest Town when consumed. However, the wine required rare materials for brewing. As a result, its production was fated to be low, only enough for the members of one's own guild, at most. However, for guilds that did not possess the magic tower, the magic wine was undeniably an excellent way to improve the strength of their guild members. In the end, Phoenix Rain bought the tool for 14,000 magic crystals. As for the ancient book, Shifeng spent 70,000 magic crystals to purchase it. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that many among you have come here today for this last item. I won't waste words giving you an introduction. The starting bid for the secret technique tablet will be 200,000 magic crystals. Each increment must be at least 2,000 magic crystals. Let us begin. Chapter 1173 Legacy of Ancient Gods. Chapter 1173 Legacy of Ancient Gods. Hellscythe_Vampire Cat. Chapter 1173 Legacy of Ancient Gods. 200,000 magic crystals for a stone tablet. The players in the first floor hall clamored when they heard this. 200,000? I didn't mishear, right? What is this stone tablet? This is a joke, right? The majority of the players in the first floor hall were curious about the secret technique tablet. The most expensive item sold in the auction thus far was the Magic Knight Legacy. Even then, it still sold for less than the minimum price of the secret technique tablet. Everyone just could not figure out what kind of godly purpose the tablet served. However, none of the players occupying the second floor rooms was surprised by this price at all. The matter regarding the secret technique tablet was something the various superpowers had kept a tight lid on all this time. Even the first-rate guilds that knew about this secret were extremely few, not to mention other guilds. Following which, the auctioneer revealed the appearance of the secret technique tablet to everyone. This secret technique tablet had a bronze color, and was named the Secret Spellcasting Technique. Secret Spellcasting Technique. The pattern engraved on this tablet is too vague and incomplete, and no information can be deciphered. However, some kind of divine power hides within this pattern. If one gathers all of the stone tablets, this vague and incomplete pattern can be restored. Current tablet count, 1/12. I knew the host wouldn't be that generous. Sure enough, they're just selling a bronze tablet, 1,000 Miles said contemptuously. Based on current information, secret technique tablets could be categorized into 3 ranks: bronze, silver, and gold. Among them, the secret techniques on bronze tablets were the weakest, while the secret techniques on gold tablets were the strongest. The fact that they're even willing to sell one is already a miracle. After all, it is still a secret technique tablet. Our guild already has a tablet for the secret spellcasting technique. If we obtain another piece, we'll be able to learn a more completed version of the spellcasting technique. Alice was elated at this situation. At the end of the day, a secret technique tablet was still a secret technique tablet. Regardless of the tablet's rank, the techniques stored inside would be of great help to magical class players like herself. Part of the reason why she succeeded in grasping the double speed casting technique was the secret spellcasting technique. If they could gather 2 tablets for the secret spellcasting technique, she might even be able to improve her technique. Just thinking about this filled Alice with anticipation. I guess you're right. If not for them trying to popularize the dark auction, they really wouldn't be willing to auction such an item. 1,000 Miles laughed. Regardless of the circumstances, he was going to obtain the secret spellcasting technique no matter what. Big Sis Rain, look! That's the secret spellcasting technique. Our guild doesn't even have a tablet for it right now. Blue Phoenix's eyes glowed as she looked at the bronze tablet. Although the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion had obtained a few secret technique tablets, they all catered to physical classes. Not one of them suited magical classes. Even so, she and Phoenix Rain had still managed to benefit a lot from them. If Phoenix Rain could win the secret spellcasting technique in this auction, both of them might be able to improve their combat standards. If that happened, they would have more cards to play on Thunder Island. We have to obtain the tablet this time. At this moment, Phoenix Rain's eyes also burned with passion as she looked at the tablet on the stage. A bronze tablet? Purple Jade could not help but sigh. I knew they wouldn't be that generous. She had personally experienced the wonders of the secret technique tablets before and was aware of the enormous difference between bronze and silver tablets. Even if one entered a bronze tablet 2 or 3 times, the harvest wouldn't be comparable to a single trip into a silver tablet. Rumor had it that a golden tablet had once appeared in Blackwing City. However, an NPC stole it. What a pity! It's actually a tablet meant for magical classes. Yuan Tianxin was slightly disappointed when he looked at the tablet. Never mind. Let's bid for it first. Despite the bronze tablet's introduction, the players in the first floor hall were still confused, not understanding what was so good about this secret spellcasting technique. As a result, their interest remained lackluster. Even a fool could tell that the host had no intention of selling the secret technique tablet at all. Otherwise, they wouldn't have put such a high price tag on it. Even a super guild would be hard-pressed to pull out this many magic crystals at a time. Not to mention, this was only the starting price. Just as the players on the first floor thought that the tablet would go unsold, someone from one of the second floor rooms suddenly shouted out a bid. 210,000 crystals. Nine Dragons Emperor stated calmly. This is insane. How rich is that guy? If he wants to buy it, then just do it. Is there a need to increase the price by an additional 10,000 crystals? Does he have too much money to waste? As expected of a superpower. They really are wealthy. Nine Dragons Emperor's bid shocked the players on the first floor. This amount of magic crystals was already more than 3 times what some first-rate guilds possessed. Meanwhile, Nine Dragons Emperor was actually spending so many magic crystals just for one stone tablet. Even fragmented legendary items wouldn't cost so much. However, even before the auctioneer could knock his gavel for the first count, the occupants of the other second-floor rooms began calling out bids one after another. 220,000 crystals. 230,000 crystals. 240,000 crystals. At this moment, it was as if magic crystals were no different from copper coins. Big Sis Endless, have these guilds gone insane? Isn't it just a stone tablet? Is there a need to spend so many magic crystals? Cloud Yarn gaped in shock when she heard the bids. In the past, she had considered the Midnight Tea Party plenty rich. After all, just the magic crystals they had stockpiled numbered over 20,000. Even if they splurged at the Divine Colosseum every day, they wouldn't be able to exhaust their stockpile within a short period. However, after arriving at this dark auction, she suddenly felt that the Midnight Tea Party actually seemed beggarly. They're not stupid. This isn't just any ordinary stone tablet. Legend has it that these stone tablets are legacies left behind by ancient gods. Even if you obtain just one complete set, you'll have no problems establishing an empire in God's domain. Endless Scars explained as she looked at the secret technique tablet on the stage. The secret technique tablet was also something mentioned in the ancient book the Tea Party had. Although the information recorded about the tablets was sparse, it was enough to conclude that the tablet's value was no less than that of legendary items. According to the information in the ancient book, the Fire Dragon Empire, one of God's domain's 4 great empires, had managed to rise to its position today precisely because the first ruler of the empire had managed to collect a complete set. One could see just how amazing secret technique tablets were. If possible, Endless Scars wanted to obtain a piece for herself as well. However, looking at its price, even if she mobilized the Blackwater Corporation's power, it was unlikely she could get her hands on it. After all, the Blackwater Corporation's roots in God's domain were still too shallow. It could not yet compete with the various superpowers of the virtual gaming world. While Endless Scars was explaining the secret technique tablet, the price of the secret spellcasting technique had gone up to 296,000 magic crystals. This was a price that even those occupying the second-floor rooms felt was a little excessive. As a result, instead of bidding in increments of 10,000 crystals, they now began raising their bids by 2,000. It seems the other guilds haven't prepared much at all. Thousand Miles laughed disdainfully. 310,000 crystals. The moment the bid of 310,000 magic crystals was placed, the entire auction hall fell silent. Even Phoenix Rain, who had earned quite a fortune from the competition before, was helpless about this price. It seems that Miracle has prepared plenty this time. Fortunately, the guild leader had anticipated this. Yuan Tianxin said, chuckling. 330,000 crystals. If one were to say which guild made the most money in the entire God's domain, then it would definitely have to be the Secret Pavilion. When Shifeng heard the bids everyone was calling out, he could not help but fall speechless. Previously, he thought that after earning more than 400,000 magic crystals, nobody present could compete with his wealth. Now, however, it would seem that he had still underestimated the foundations of these superpowers. Had he not contested for the Magic Knight legacy before, he might have been able to contend for this secret technique tablet. Unfortunately, that was no longer possible. 340,000 crystals. Just as the secret spellcasting technique was about to become the Secret Pavilion's possession, Hidden Soul, who was seated not far from Shifeng, suddenly placed a bid. 350,000 crystals. 1,000 Miles shouted, gnashing his teeth. Hearing the various guilds occupying the second-floor rooms calling out bids in rapid succession paralyzed the players in the first-floor hall. Meanwhile, at this time, Shifeng suddenly contacted Phoenix Rain. Phoenix Pavilion Master, can you lend me 200,000 magic crystals right now? I'll return 300,000 crystals to you in 5 days. Shifeng suggested as he looked at Phoenix Rain in the screen. Chapter 1174 Legacy Secured. Chapter 1174 Legacy Secured. Borrow 200,000 crystals and return 300,000? Phoenix Rain wore a surprised expression as she stared at Shifeng on the screen. She felt as if she were getting to know the man for the first time. A first-rate guild was already considered quite wealthy if they had a stockpile of 60,000 to 70,000 magic crystals. Yet, Shifeng wanted to borrow 200,000 magic crystals right off the bat. Moreover, he intended to return them with a 50% interest. This was twice as high as the market interest rate. Magic crystals were not coins. It was impossible to purchase magic crystals in bulk on the market. Guilds could only purchase a small amount from workshops or adventurer teams. Aside from that, guilds had to rely on their own members to raid dungeons and collect them gradually. In Phoenix Rain's opinion, although Zero Wing owned a gold mine like Stone Forest Town and business in the town's battle arena was booming, it was impossible for Zero Wing to earn 300,000 magic crystals within 5 days, yet all she saw when she looked into Shifeng's eyes was confidence and serenity. Do you intend to bid for the bronze tablet? Phoenix Rain could not help but ask. That's right. Shifeng did not try hiding it. After all, it was easy to guess with a moment of thought. Seeing Shifeng's serious expression, Phoenix Rain shook her head. Chuckling, she said, I advise you to give that thought up. Even if I lend you 200,000 crystals, you won't outcompete them. While 350,000 magic crystals was an astronomical sum to even the best first-rate guild, the super guilds and super first-rate guilds that had come prepared had not yet reached their limit. In her opinion, Zero Wing must have earned a lot of magic crystals in the earlier competition. With the guild's stockpile, they should roughly have around 180,000 or 190,000 magic crystals. Even if Shifeng borrowed 200,000 crystals, he would only have 390,000 magic crystals or so. There was simply no way to compete against the other superpowers. By her estimates, they would only have a chance of securing the secret spellcasting technique if they had 420,000 magic crystals. If possible, Phoenix Rain wanted to borrow 180,000 magic crystals from Shifeng. After including her own 250,000 magic crystals, she might have a chance at competing against the other guilds. However, she still needed to make preparations for Thunder Island, so if she did borrow the magic crystals, she wouldn't be able to return it within a short time. I still have 260,000 magic crystals. After including your 200,000, I think I'll have enough. Shifeng understood what Phoenix Rain was trying to say. Smiling, he continued, If it truly is impossible, I can only admit defeat. 400,000 magic crystals should be the various superpowers' limit. Even if they had more, it wouldn't be too far from that number. While a bronze tablet was inferior to a silver tablet, it had a much lower entry requirement. Silver tablets required players to be capable of drawing intermediate magic arrays. Bronze tablets only required players to be capable of drawing basic magic arrays. As for golden tablets, Sherfone assumed that players would be required to draw advanced magic arrays to enter. Even someone like himself, who was quite familiar with magic arrays, could not draw an advanced magic array. Even if he obtained a golden tablet, it would be nothing more than a paperweight. On the other hand, if he had a bronze tablet, his guild members could use it. Hence, obtaining a bronze tablet was very important to Zero Wing right now. Even if he was not certain he could win the bid, he needed to try. 260,000? You have that many? Phoenix Rain gasped. She never thought that Zero Wing would have even more magic crystals than her. Immediately, her lips curled into a smile as she said, "Let's do it like this. I'll lend you 250,000 crystals. I won't ask for any interest either. Just pay me back in full in 5 days. However, I want 10 slots to enter the bronze tablet. We'll split the slots into 2 months, with 5 people entering each session." Secret technique tablets could only be used once a month. Even if she obtained one, she would only enter it once. A player would reap the most benefits from a secret technique tablet during their first entry. Afterward, a player would gain less with each subsequent visit. The tablet's greatest advantage was that players could use it repeatedly. She had bid for the bronze tablet mainly to improve her strength before the contest on Thunder Island began. She did not particularly care about the benefits she could obtain during subsequent entries. Deal. Sherfone agreed without hesitation. The secret spellcasting technique was intended for magical class players. Throughout Zero Wing, there were only a few magical class experts qualified to enter the bronze tablet. 10 slots over 2 months would be enough. Following which, both sides quickly signed a contract. Phoenix Rain then had Blue Phoenix deliver the magic crystals to Sherfone. While this was happening, the secret spellcasting technique's price had risen to 394,000 magic crystals. The various large guilds in the first floor hall were astounded. Although they had long since known that their guilds were no match for super first-rate guilds and super guilds, they had not realized that the gap would be this massive. "Damn it! Just who is competing against me?" Thousand Miles bellowed as he glared at 2 other rooms. Currently, the tablet's price neared his limit, yet Hidden Soul and Yuan Tianxin showed no signs of giving up. After taking a look at the magic crystals in his bag, Thousand Miles shouted, 400,000 crystals! 404,000 crystals! Hidden Soul declared, maintaining her calm composure. Interesting. At this moment, Yuan Tianxin laughed and yelled, 410,000 crystals! Immediately, the auction hall became a battlefield for these 3 people, the atmosphere growing extraordinarily chilly. 440,000 crystals! Thousand Miles no longer planned on holding back as he directly raised the price by 30,000 magic crystals. He hoped to scare Hidden Soul and Yuan Tianxin off. "Uncle Yuan, the price is already at 440,000 crystals. This is far above the tablet's actual value," Purple Jade said. The secret technique tablet would massively benefit players. However, the secret spellcasting technique was only bronze rank. In reality, a tablet for that technique should only be worth around 300,000 magic crystals. It was simply not worth 440,000 magic crystals. "I understand," Yuan Tianxin said. He had simply bid 410,000 to probe his opponent's limits. In another room, Hidden Soul frowned. "Let's give it another try. If it really isn't possible, I can only give up." Hidden Soul also felt that the price was a little too high. Immediately she shouted, 444,000 crystals! Damn it! Damn it all! Why hasn't he given up? We are already at 440,000. Thousand Miles burned with rage. If not for Miracle already having a tablet for the secret spellcasting technique, he wouldn't be willing to pay the astronomical price of 440,000 magic crystals. However, the guild leader had told him to go all out for the secret spellcasting technique. Hence, he had no choice. He even had to bleed his own stash. This must be that guy's limit. Otherwise, he wouldn't have risen the price by just 4,000 crystals. Even the Witch of the West herself was slightly anxious. 450,000 crystals! 1,000 Miles decided to give it one last try. This was also his limit. The moment 1,000 Miles called out his bid, the venue fell deathly silent. Just when is he going to reach his limit? Are magic crystals really that easy to obtain? The various guild upper echelons in the first floor hall lost their minds over this situation. Was such desperation really necessary for this stone tablet? Ha! It seems I can only give up. Hidden Soul smiled bitterly as she shook her head. She had never imagined that, despite bringing so many magic crystals with her, she would walk away empty-handed at the end of the day. If she had known this would happen, she would have purchased the Magic Knight Legacy. Seconds ticked by. The auctioneer grew nervous on the stage. However, even after a long moment, no word came from Hidden Soul's room. 454,000 crystals! However, just as 1,000 Miles thought that his opponent had given up, a new bid echoed from Hidden Soul's room. How is this possible? 1,000 Miles bellowed. He simply could not believe this. Hidden Soul had been silent for so long, yet she had placed a new bid? However, 1,000 Miles had nothing more to bet. He had no choice but to watch as the auctioneer's gavel descended again and again. As the gavel descended for the third time, the auction hall exploded with noise. Chapter 1175 Preparations to Construct a City. Chapter 1175 Preparations to Construct a City. Hellscythe_Fluffy Goblin. Chapter 1175 Preparations to Construct a City. How does he have so many magic crystals? Hidden Soul began to size the nearby Sherfong up seriously. The man had already surprised her by buying the Magic Knight Legacy. Now, he had spent another 450,000 magic crystals to buy the bronze tablet. Sherfong had spent over 600,000 magic crystals in total. Even the Flower of Seven Sins needed time to prepare so much wealth. It seems that we will need to investigate this Zero Wing. Hidden Soul suspected that the guild known as Zero Wing wasn't as simple as Autumn Goose had described. Meanwhile, after winning the bronze tablet, Sherfong quietly rejoiced. Although he had spent a lot of magic crystals, the secret spellcasting technique was akin to the gospel for the guild's magical class experts. At the end of the day, he was only a swordsman, a physical melee class. He could only offer general spellcasting technique advice. He could not guide them as thoroughly as he could the melee classes. As a result, the physical classes' technique standards were higher than the magical classes in Zero Wing. Now that he had obtained the bronze tablet, as long as Aqua Rose, Violet Cloud, Alluring Summer, and the other magical class experts improved their technique standards, they could guide the other magical classes in the guild. Inside 1,000 Miles' room, the tension in the room was almost solid. Starstreak, find out who is in room 017 right this instant. 1,000 Miles ordered in a chilly tone. Not only had he failed to obtain the Magic Knight Legacy, but he had also failed to obtain the bronze tablet. He would definitely have a hard time explaining himself when he returned to headquarters. Understood. Starstreak nodded. Immediately, he left to surveil room 017. Although the rooms in the dark auction protected their occupants' privacy and prevented others from spying, the people inside the rooms had to come out sooner or later. At that time, they would discover who occupied room 017. Meanwhile, as the dark auction's first segment came to an end, the popular second segment began. All players in the auction hall could offer their items for trade during the second segment. This bartering session was the main reason behind the various large guilds' visit to this auction. Normally, when the various large guilds obtained a rare material, they wouldn't trade it even if they had no need for it. However, oftentimes, other guilds desperately needed these useless items. Hence, these guilds could use this auction to barter their unnecessary rare materials for things they actually needed. Trading 3 single-target, attack-type magic scrolls for 1 set of basic magic arrays. Trading 1 stack of mana cloth for 1 stack of flaming ice crystals. Trading 1 stone skin potion recipe for 1 flame protection potion recipe. Message after message appeared on the large screen above the stage. None of the auction house's patrons had any complaints about the exorbitant processing fee. After all, even the cheapest items they listed were worth 50 gold or more, with some worth several hundred gold. Just looking at the exchange messages on the screen made everyone a little jealous of the host. The minimum processing fee was 10 gold coins. If the host processed 100 items, they would earn 1,000 gold. In an auction with over 10,000 people, if every person placed an item up for trade, the host would instantly receive 100,000 gold. Furthermore, why would any of these players have come here to trade a single item? One had to admit that holding an auction like this was way more profitable than banditry. This was also inspiration for how Shifeng could operate auctions in the candlelight trading firm in the future. He might not be able to invite as many large guilds and superpowers as the Dark Auction House had, but he could lower the standards of his auctions slightly, not only allowing large guilds to bid, but independent players as well. Suddenly, Shifeng had an idea. He could establish a bartering site that enabled trade between players. In God's domain, aside from auction houses and underground arenas, player-constructed cities could offer players trading locations. Players could not purchase locations such as auction houses and underground arenas in NPC cities. However, as long as players had their own cities, they could construct their own bartering sites. The city could then allow bartering through the system. In the past, there were no such specialized bartering sites in God's domain. This was due to the various large guilds. When independent players obtained rare items, if they wanted to trade them for good items, their best option was to go to a large guild. After all, independent players were not necessarily well connected. With this, the various large guilds could buy rare items at a cheaper price. If a specialized trading post were constructed, however, the various large guilds would have a hard time obtaining rare items cheaply. The lack of such locations had also been due to how rarely independent players got their hands on valuable items. In addition, due to geographical restrictions, players generally only traded in their own country. As a result, there were even less rare items available for exchange. Hence, even after the various large guilds had established their own cities during the mid-late stages of the game, they had not bothered to construct these locations. Even if a guild established a trading post in their city, other guilds wouldn't prosper overmuch. The amount of money one could earn from such a bartering location would be so pitiful that they would be better off trading with independent players privately. However, Shifeng's situation was slightly different. God's domain was still in its early stages. The various large guilds were having a headache just trying to develop their own towns, not to mention constructing a city. Meanwhile, he had a city-building order. This gave him with a massive advantage. If he constructed his city now, he wouldn't have a single competitor. He could be the first one to expand the market, establishing a firm reputation like the Dark Arena. In the future, when players from other kingdoms and empires thought about trading their rare items, they would come running to his city to do so. The other guilds would be helpless to do anything about it. Even after other guilds established their own cities, his trading post would have grown to a considerable scale. He would have a steady supply of rare items. At that time, it would be near impossible for newly established trading posts to compete with his. Although the large guilds obtained plenty of rare items, the majority of God's domain's player base would forever be independent players. If these independent players gathered, they could obtain far more rare items than any super guild. Due to the difficulty of private trades, it was practically impossible for independent players to exchange their items with each other. Hence, they sought large guilds to barter with. If a specialized bartering center were available, however, independent players would only need to consign their items. Other players could then purchase those items. They wouldn't need to idiotically contact one person after another. Not only could they save a lot of time and trouble, but they could also obtain the items they wanted. Even if the teleportation fees were expensive, most likely, many independent players would make the trip to visit the trading post. Shifeng could not help his growing excitement. However, to construct his city, he first needed to obtain a sufficient number of 7 luminaries crystals. Otherwise, without the 4 towers of elements protection, defending the city would be too difficult. It seems that I need to put the plan into action now. After pondering over the matter, Shifeng decided to begin collecting 7 Luminaries crystals. While 7 Luminaries crystals were incomparably rare and precious, there were a few locations that had them. Unfortunately, these locations were extremely dangerous, and he would need to prepare. The easiest place to obtain 7 Luminaries crystals Shifeng could think of was the Sea of Death's Demon Island. Only, the journey was particularly dangerous. Demon Island was also a forbidden land for the living. Without sufficiently high darkness resistance, survival was impossible. Shifeng immediately began to browse the auction house's rare items, searching for items that increased darkness resistance. After searching for some time, Shifeng finally found 2 good items on the list the system had provided. Both could significantly increase a player's darkness resistance. One of them was a Master Darkness Resistance potion, while the other was a light cloak. However, before Shifeng could celebrate, he saw the items' prices, and his expression darkened. Is this person insane? Who would use shadow gold and ancient wood to purchase these items? Just as Shifeng was about to curse again, he was stunned by the trader's name. The same person had placed these 2 items up for trade. Silent Wonder. One of God's domain's 10 great Grandmaster alchemists. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.